Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special Captain Who edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party.
Monster Party. Monster Party.
Super Monster Party.
Yeah, right. It's superheroes. See
Yes.
what we're doing? We're like a
Cool. Kind of.
well-oiled machine. We're like a daisy chain of talent. That's what this is.
And speaking of talent, who are you, sir?
Well, thank you, Larry. I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I am Larry STROTHE.
And I'm James Gonis.
All right. We're all here. Monster Party assemble.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, enough of this silly, stupid superhero talk. Because you know what this episode's about. You read the description.
That's right.
And what this is about, we are going to do a superhero episode. This is a little different from the ones we've done before because we're going to concentrate on the unsung heroes, the forgotten heroes,
That's
the
right.
strange heroes, maybe the heroes that someday might get a movie, might get a TV show, but right now they're just kind of floundering, you know.
Yeah, maybe misfits, maybe.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. And waiting to be discovered like a pearl.
And what's the topic of the show?
The topic of this show is Superhero Obscura.
Superhero Obscura.
Superhero Obscura. So, you know, we did horror obscura, we did sci-fi obscura. So now we're going to do superhero obscura. Little known, weird, strange, forgotten superheroes.
I
There's
don't
plenty
think
of
our,
them.
yes, I don't think our listeners realize just how many thousands of superheroes
yes.
there were.
Yeah.
Not everyone can be a Superman or a Batman.
Right.
There were
right.
a
Throughout
lot
the
of
years,
others.
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Since the beginning of superheroes themselves. I mean, there's
That's
been
right. That's right.
strange, obscure, forgotten ones.
But Matt,
Mm-hmm.
how could we possibly do this topic? How could we do this?
Well, we need a superhero of our own. We
Yeah,
need a
right.
titan. We need a metahuman, dare I say, of guests. And we've got one. Oh my God. He's a return guest, longtime friend of the show, a friend of me for years. And he is a celebrated author, screenwriter, improviser, podcaster, and a past roommate. Yes, we live together. And he also has a job where he names things. How do you like that? Yes.
Wow.
And we'll talk
Cool.
about that a little bit later. But ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back MARC HERSHON.
Mark.
Hey, and
Back.
that's a heroic name, isn't it? It just kind
HERSHON.
It is.
Well, if
It
you
things
were a
off the
character,
rooftops.
but if it was just one, if you were like the one word name, then it would work, I think. HERSHON
Yeah.
from the galaxy of Kravitz. But thank you so much for making the time once again for us. You've always been an amazing supporter of the show. You've
Yes.
written things about us, and so it's always
Oh yeah, well,
lovely to have you back. And I miss you. I do.
I miss you. I miss all of you guys. Fortunately I can listen to you guys when the episodes come out, which I do.
That's true. Yeah.
Nice.
Love it.
Wow.
And I always love getting the call, just like a superhero. I see the HERSHON signal in the sky.
That's right. Yes.
But this is definitely a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I love
Yes.
obscure superheroes.
And you're just a comic book fan in general. I mean, you love the medium.
I do. But there's something
Mhm.
about those unsung heroes and villains that just kind of like, why didn't this take off? Why did this guy with his, one weird power or some strange thing?
Right, right.
You read like 7 pages and you go, yeah, I kind of get it. I see why
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
got his own.
And
joke.
there are other ones where we're like, yep, I can see why this guy is destined to obscurity.
Or they were great and they had their time, but then that time passed.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Matt is
Yes.
absolutely right.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the ones I'm going to talk about, if we get to it, is a guy who just, I mean, he was in this book, my source book that I'm using, and it was just kind of like a thing like, well, this guy, his costume was stupid, he was stupid, and it just didn't work. And he's turned his image around in the superhero genre. So
Do you want to start with this, Mark?
Mark,
Yeah.
Mark,
Yeah, sure.
Mark, you had me at stupid. So I'm costume. so let's start this thing. Let's get into these obscure superheroes.
Give it
Tell
to
us a little bit about it. His name. What can you tell us?
All right, I will tell you, and I had all my pages marked here, so let me see if I can get to the one
That's
particular
all right.
one. 'Cause it was
We'll wait.
No, it's okay. It's okay. But anyway, so this was a guy, he was described by critics as not going to work because his costume was dumb. He wore a helmet that looked like a toilet seat. And he didn't seem to have any real discernible powers, except he was strong, but he wasn't super strong.
Right.
And he wasn't that, he was like a guy who was in the military, and he got drummed out, and just, he kind of like was a lackluster superhero. And that was the Peacemaker.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
You mean that's turned into the current Peacemaker?
The show, yes.
Thanks to
Yeah.
James Gunn. But here's, I don't know if you can see this because of the glare, but this was original comic book color art.
Oh, great for radio. Yeah.
Oh,
Great.
sorry. But anyway, but it's amazing how much
He's been around for a while.
they sort of cleave to his uniform and his costume and everything else, all the goofiness of it, and just made him into this. I mean, he's still a horrible superhero, but the show on HBO is fantastic.
Is brilliant.
Yeah, it's really good.
brilliant. And then, we got the first taste of him in the second Suicide Squad movie,
Yes.
which really turned everything around, I think, in a lot of ways for DC, because DC still does their grim superhero thing, but at least for that one, with those kind of supervillains too, it really lent itself to the kind of Deadpool type approach.
Yeah.
And it's great. I mean, that movie was so much fun. And then the Peacemaker show is just genius.
Oh, I would watch the opening credits every episode.
Yeah.
Us too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know what? And speaking of the second Suicide Squad film, I would say they did the same with Polka Dot Man.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Which is this bizarre, silly, kind of throwaway, weird character from DC history that they turned into a great, fully fledged character, and it was great. And it's weird and scary and it's bizarre, and it was fantastic.
And the way they talk about in Peacemaker, Matt and I were talking about this the other day. They offhandedly mention these other DC characters that we've never seen before, like Doll Man,
right?
And their weird proclivities and what's wrong with them, and the fact that Aquaman gets it on with fish, and
right. Yeah, it's all in the presentation, like, because that's the thing. Is like comic books are one medium, and film and TV are just completely different mediums. It's how you approach it. The tone and the approach of these characters, if you do it right, it doesn't matter how weird or outlandish they are, they can be made believable and cool.
Yeah. One of the things they did with Peacemaker when they sort of brought him into the movies, though, as I'm reading the detail of his old comic book, was he was exactly the opposite that he is today, which was he was more like Batman in that he would not kill anybody. He wouldn't even, he used like nerve gas. And so he would knock people out and do that, but he would never kill anybody. So the idea they made him into this guy that's basically a killer.
Right. But all in the name of good.
Yes. A funny twist. Anyway, so that's
casting,
just
casting John Cena. It's like a wink and a nod, I mean, he's not, he's likable enough, but he's sort of this big oafish dolt,
Yeah. A likable one. Yeah.
He is perfect. And the one thing that I didn't expect from him, because I've seen him in other movies and things, and I think he's charming enough, but I had no idea that he had that kind of comic timing.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then there's that one episode where he plays the old stand-up piano in their headquarters. And that's actually him doing it.
Is that right? Really? Wow.
It's actually him playing the piano.
Wow.
Quite the talented man.
Yeah.
And then
anyway,
you've got Robert Patrick in there as his
my
dad.
God.
Yeah,
He's so good.
So good.
Just this
and then
insane Nazi hero.
And what they've done with the vigilante character.
Which, right.
He was always just this cold-blooded vigilante, and they've made him into this bizarre, totally bizarre buffoon of a character.
Yeah, kind of like an immature kid, you know.
Yeah.
But also has no problem with murder and
Yeah.
That's a great choice.
Yeah, that's if DC is going in that direction, I hope they
keep it up.
That's what they should do, you know. Don't just embrace their weirdness. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. And what a great opportunity for our comic friend Steve Agee to shine in that show.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's what's his name? John. He's got a weird last name in the show. But again, so comedians coming forth as well, which is great. Anyway, so I just thought it'd be interesting to
that's a great one to start off with.
That one.
Yeah.
I like it.
Nice one, Mark. Nice one. You know, it's funny. I was really excited when we decided to do this topic because I'm working on a production which has me doing a lot of research on some vintage comics. And and I've been learning a lot about some of these comic characters that I had never heard of. And what Matt said earlier about some of these came out at a certain time and they were appropriate for the time, but as things changed, they just kind of vanished.
Right.
And one of the superheroes that I've been learning about and I thought was pretty cool was a guy called the Ray. And what's funny is if you do some research and you go, well, who did the Ray? It says by Electron. which is it's a pseudonym for actually it was created by Will Eisner, who did the Spirit and
Wow.
These guys were great artists, but it's like you have to understand people like Bob Kane or some of these other artists, they didn't start out making something great. They had a lot of experience working on other heroes, superheroes.
Right.
So what's interesting about the Ray, because it's drawn by these incredible artists, the artwork for it's 1940 is really beautiful. But what's interesting is he's this plucky reporter, Happy Terrell, and he's a science reporter. He reports on science stuff. And
we don't even have that now.
No.
Yeah, really.
This is the 1940s, and you think about it when atomic energy and things that they're doing with electricity. Well, what's interesting is Happy goes up in this balloon with this scientist. They're trying to find these cosmic rays, and there's like this storm, and it hits the balloon, and it zaps Happy, and it turns him into this what they call the cosmic being who can travel through light. Beams of light, and he can and light shoots out of his fingers and stuff, and he's like really athletic. And if you try to shoot him, because he blends in with light, he's like transparent, and bullets will go through him.
That's cool.
So he's really it is. It is kind of cool. Now the weird thing about it, guys, it sounds kind of neat. Originally, he was in this bodysuit. It was a golden bodysuit with this golden helmet, and he doesn't have any. When I say he doesn't have any pants, it's like he's got like a gymnast. He's like a gymnast onesie. So his legs are flesh color, and you see all his rippling muscles, and you look at it and go, what's going on here?
He's very powerful, but he's very forgetful. Like my pants.
Yes. Well, what's funny is after a few issues, and this is in Smash Comics, he was one of many superheroes they had in Smash Comics. After about 3 or 4 of these issues, they gave him pants, but the drawings are beautiful, and he's a superhero that I've never heard of. Now, honestly, beams of light. I mean, I don't know. It's not as cool as like a Batman or a Superman.
I don't know.
But it's pretty cool. I don't know if he'll ever get a TV show or a movie, but I have to tell you, looking at the comics, they were really cool. He basically fights a lot of like mobsters of the day.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a really neat, obscure superhero.
Larry, he actually had his own show on the CW for 2 seasons.
No.
In 2017.
Whoa.
Through 2008.
Was it the same Ray?
What? It was the same Ray.
Because
What?
the other thing I've noticed too is there are some superheroes that were called a certain name back in the 30s and the 40s, and then you'll see, oh, here's the character again in the 80s, but it's a completely different
Nope,
character.
this is the same one, and they brought him back on the. They would do those Arrowverse crossover shows.
So
Yeah.
what was it called? Was it just called The Ray?
It was called The Ray, Freedom Fighters, The Ray, because he had some other obscure heroes with him.
Well,
Oh.
Mark, the point here is,
Wow.
I'm sorry, I missed that TV show.
As did
And
I.
I didn't know about this particular superhero. And I'm just saying the drawings back in the 40s they're really nicely done. They're beautiful for the time. And I didn't know he had a TV show. But again, beams of light, maybe not as cool as some other superheroes.
Well, I think it is cool. I think it's
I like that.
especially for the time too. It's at least it's not just another Superman knockoff.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly,
something
Matt.
different.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
And I'm happy to hear that he made it. He finally made it.
He got a little show. That's great.
Yeah. he's
Oh yeah, I looked at it. Was like
around.
I just looked it up. It's an animated show. Okay, it was animated. Okay, cool.
Yeah, but
Interesting.
he actually showed up as a actual living character.
a live action show on
in Crisis
Arrow.
Crisis
Wow.
of Earth X.
Okay.
And and he turns out he was gay. They made him a
Okay,
gay
and they made it a little more
superhero.
contemporary. And
Wow.
like, okay.
Wow.
Well,
Interesting.
when you look back at the comic, you kind of wonder, but still, it's a
Okay.
great comic.
Stop
It's a
right
neat
there.
comic.
Yeah.
Okay, but there you go, The Ray. Thank you, Mark.
Nice,
Thank you.
nicely.
Very good.
Sean,
very
Sean,
good.
Sean, why don't you give us one?
Okay, well, this is one that I've never seen this comic. I've never read this comic, but looking through and researching weird superheroes, this one really caught my eye. There was a color photo of it in one of the reference books I have, and this is for a character called Fat Man, the human flying saucer.
You stole that from me.
Are
I have
you
that on my
really?
list.
The
So
Fat
this
Man,
was
the human
it's
flying
called Fat
saucer?
the Human Flying Saucer. It's from the 60s from a company called Lightning Comics. And the idea is this is a kind of chubby guy who happens to encounter a UFO, a flying saucer, and Mark's holding up the a photo of one of the comics. But the UFO actually turns out to be like a shape-shifting alien. And the
Wow.
UFO is in trouble, and somehow the guy helps the UFO. So as a reward, the UFO zaps him with special superpowers, and his power is that he can basically turn into a flying saucer and shoot rays. It's like and the way he does this is he's given a chocolate drink.
Oh,
Because
that is
my God.
adorable.
because the character is like a glutton and loves food of all kinds and stuff.
No way.
So when the flying saucer alien gives him the drink, he turns into the human flying saucer and fights crime. And his only weakness is that if he's engaged in battle or doing some kind of good deed, if there's food around, he'll just stop in his tracks and eat food.
That's his food is his kryptonite.
That's his kryptonite, and he lives with his parents, and who don't know about his secret identity.
This is
Surprise.
so fat shaming.
He's called
Oh.
Fat Man, the Human Flying Saucer. So whether or not that will end up being a TV or movie someday, I don't know. But
I'd
it
like
was
to see it.
short-lived. Yeah, short-lived series.
Where's that show?
Lightning Comics was a short-lived comic line as well. But if you look up Fat Man, the Human Flying Saucer, and you'll find some amazing cover art.
It's the only comic book that came with recipes.
Yeah. So there we go. I would think that would qualify as a weird and obscure superhero.
Well, one of the interesting.
I wish the way that he became the flying saucer was different. Like he had to go to like a steakhouse and eat that big steak.
Yeah, he literally it's like I think he shortens and widens at the same time until he becomes like a disc shape. And that's
Oh,
I would love to see this in
that's pretty cool.
modern day computer technology to see how that transformation
Wow.
happens.
I do like that.
Yeah.
Well, the original writer and artist for that comic, by the way, were the guys who did the original Captain Marvel, the DC Captain Marvel.
The creators of Captain Marvel / Shazam created Fat Man.
And if you look at his cape, it's exactly the same as Captain Marvel's cape. It's got the weird kind of collar that comes
Oh,
up.
wow.
okay.
Yeah.
I always
Pretty
liked that
amazing.
cape.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
So there you go. Fat Man.
Nice.
Very
nice
good.
one, Sean.
Sorry for stealing that one from you.
No, that's
Mark.
okay.
Plenty to go
Sean,
around.
Sean,
Yes.
that's a great one, though. I like that. James, how about you?
Well, growing up, I was more of a DC kid than a Marvel kid, and I used to read Batman Family and Superman Family.
Oh
Remember those? Like,
Yeah,
all the
sure.
comics and-
Yeah, like the dog and the nephew.
Well,
and
that's
whole-
the thing, you know. You get like,
Nephew.
I guess back in the 50s they were kind of desperate, so you ended up with, you know, Crypto, the super dog,
Sure.
and
Right.
and at some point you had the super cat, and it's like,
Right.
I mean, come on, okay, the dog maybe, but a
Yeah.
super cat, what's he gonna do? Like chase super mice? I mean, what the fuck?
He could shoot out energy hairballs or something.
Wait, are you
He-
are you chastising Supercat?
Well, what
Kinda,
is
yeah.
Super Cat's powers? Is he just agility and
being
strength?
adorable.
He-
Well,
he
can,
can-
can he fly, James?
he can
he
he can
fly?
Of
shoot-
course, they
he
can
can
all
sh-
fly.
He can shoot beams of light out of his eyes and then chase them around.
And he can also
No.
he can also shed a lot, which really annoys the supervillains.
Yeah, right.
No.
right. He ruins your suit.
yeah. He makes you have to buy lint rolls a lot.
Batman, they came up with like Batmite. You
Oh,
remember
yeah.
Batmite, yeah, the Batmite's kind of.
He was like, isn't he kind of like the Bat version of Mr. Mixoplex?
Yes,
Exactly.
Yeah,
he's
was,
like-
was he an
Exactly.
alien?
No, the other dimensional creature.
Oh, okay,
Gotcha.
okay.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
then Man Bat, which
Right.
you know, was just like, okay,
It's a villain, though, right?
Like
it's a
a
villain.
gargoyle. Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of-
Was he? Was he?
No, he's not a
villain?
gargoyle. He's a man bat.
No, but I mean, but he's like a big humanoid winged creature.
Right,
That's kind of.
Right.
That is
Right.
true. Yes.
Yeah.
But in 1958, there was a pilot for a TV series about was called Super Pup, and it was this black and white. It never made
Really?
it past the pilot stage, where it was Superman working for the Daily Planet, but every character was a dog. And
my
there
God.
were people in really bad dog costumes, and this thing was so cheap, it's
Wow.
almost like scary to watch. But on the Superman DVD collection, where they released everything from, you know, Richard Donner's Superman all the way to Superman Returns, they included the pilot on there. So it's like,
Wow.
wow,
That's
It's
cool.
I gotta see
astonishing.
this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the characters, I'm not sure if it's Perry White or who it is clearly a midget. So they had to have like
Oh,
little
wow.
people in
Right.
You know, it's just it's astonishing. But you know, more recently we have DC League of Super Pets.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just recently. Yeah.
Yeah, coming off. It's a little bit like Secret Life of Pets. It's got that kind of tone,
Right.
but it does have a lot of. I haven't frankly made it all the way through it, but it's cute and it's engaging. And if you're a fan of these characters,
I'm not.
It's well, let's say if you're a fan of DC animation, which is usually better.
Yes,
than,
I am a fan.
than the
Yeah,
live
yeah.
action.
Right.
It's worth a look, because you do get a little
right.
bit of, you know, some in jokes, some of the classic like John Williams music from Superman, and
Oh wow.
you know, it was not a waste of time, though, from what I saw of it, and I will
James.
probably sit through it. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There you have it.
Well,
All
you know
right.
what? When you were describing the show with the dogs,
Yes.
I thought what you were going to say was that it was like Lancelot Link, where it was real
Mhm.
dogs that
Mm.
they dressed
Me
up
too.
like people.
Yes.
And torture
And
to yeah.
Right. It was cattle prods to make them
Right.
fly. And
Bark.
And peanut butter to make them talk.
Sure,
Yeah.
right. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that would have
But-
been entertaining in its own way. This
They
is
should make
also
that.
just sort of no argument for me. I'd watch that.
I have to
Nice.
see this pilot, though. Yeah, that sounds
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's
Oh, yeah.
crazy. I like it.
Yeah.
There you
beautiful.
go. Matt?
All right. Well, this is one that I might have mentioned in passing in another episode, but it needs more attention.
Okay.
And this superhero, his name is Super President. And Super President was an actual animated cartoon on NBC in 1967. I am not shitting you.
Wow.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
It was produced by DePatty Freeling.
hmm
And so
It's the Pink Panther guys.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so this show is that it's the president of the United States, who is also a superhero.
Wow.
And he acts like Superman. And his origin is similar to the Fantastic Four. He's in a spaceship. He's an astronaut, and he flies through a cosmic storm, and now he has powers, right? But he has powers that are kind of like metamorpho, where he can change his composition. And he's got like a bat cave almost under the presidential mansion, as they call it, which is basically the White House, but they altered it a little bit. But yeah, and he's got a futuristic car. But I first saw this cartoon. Remember when Jerry Beck and Frank Conniff would do that thing, Cartoon Dump? And And they would do it live, and they would show all these bizarre cartoons. And this was one of them. And I thought it was something that they had made for the show. But no, it's real. He's a super president, and he's voiced by Paul Frees. So that's kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And so you have that, but the character's name is Super President.
Right.
And so he's the president. So it's pretty easy to figure out like who this guy is. I think that may be the president.
Right.
But what really kills me is the reception. And I got this from the internet. And apparently this thing was panned by everyone.
Really?
And the National Association of Broadcasters said, this is their quote, an all-time low in bad taste with the president of the United States in a Superman role. NBC was responsible for this direct ideological approach to totalitarianism. What could be wrong with a super-powered president?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then they go on to say, we fear that there may be other broadcasters who are irresponsible enough to keep it in circulation.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's funny because like a lot of these shows, there was another character that was in the show. Like they do a super president cartoon and then they'd have a different character do another one.
Right.
And the other one was called Spy Shadow. And it was about this secret agent who was voiced by Ted Cassidy, who had learned in Tibet how to command his shadow. So he's kind of like the shadow, but the shadow is able to like walk off and do things. And that sounds pretty cool, right?
That sounds more interesting than
that
Super
sounds
President.
way more interesting than Super President. Yeah.
Sounds more like the super vice president.
Right.
But I mean,
wow, interesting.
Super President, though. As soon as I heard that, I swear I thought it was a gag. But
really.
These were actually made.
Well, do you remember Prez from DC Comics?
I do remember Prez. I love Prez.
No.
He was a teenager who became president of the United States.
Yes.
And that was basically, he wasn't a superhero. He was just a teenager.
He was teenage president. Yeah. And then they didn't they do like a Vertigo update of him? That was, I think, I remember. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember if it was somebody like Grant Morrison who did the writing. I forget.
That'd be pretty cool.
Wow.
But it was cool. Yeah, Prez.
Yeah.
Oh.
They got to make that into a show.
America's first teen president.
It was sort of like Wild in the Streets.
Well, I was just going to say Wild in the Streets.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Fun.
Okay, I like it.
Right.
That was nice. Well, Mark, back to you, buddy. Why don't you give us another
All right.
All right. I'm going to bring up a hero you guys probably have not heard of before, Captain Marvel.
Well, no, but I know there are several different Captain Marvels.
Yes.
Different.
There are.
Yes.
There's the Captain Marvel that we know from that became Shazam because of a lawsuit.
Right.
There's Marvel's Captain
MCU's
Marvel.
Captain Marvel, right?
And
That's awesome.
there's giant action issue Captain Marvel.
Mhm.
Captain Marvel,
Oh.
yes, from 1966 from MF Enterprises. And this Captain Marvel had the ability to separate parts of his body. And
Ooh.
Yeah. Didn't he like when he would say split?
split. He would go split. And his arms and legs and head and chest would all go off separately. And what I love is, I don't know if you can see in the illustration on this cover here, but one of these guys looks like Stan Lee from bottom.
Mark, wasn't this the result of the lawsuit? The name Captain Marvel became available shortly and somebody snatched it up. I think it's the guy who did Eerie Publications.
Myron Fass.
Myron Fass.
Yeah. Like he was a shrewd businessman. He saw that opportunity to, take advantage of that copyright.
It's like when they made that Fantastic Four film because the rights were available for a short period of time.
Oh.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So Anyway,
What a
Captain Marvel,
strange, what a
just
strange
seems awful.
superpower.
Just seems like an awful guy. Although it's funny because they used that power that was in the Suicide Squad movie. The Nathan Fillion played that character that could separate his arms.
Yeah, that's right.
I forget what they called him, the something kid.
You're right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So it's almost like they borrowed it from that Captain Marvel character. But anyway, it's just so interesting that some of these names, people go, "Yeah, let's call our guy Captain Marvel."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Totally.
amazing.
Especially since there was already a huge comic line called Marvel.
Yes.
I mean, the fact,
right.
it just gets so confusing. You thought, oh yeah, Captain Marvel, they named it after their company. Like it's weird. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and then in Britain, there was Marvel Man, who was basically their ripoff of Captain Marvel.
No.
Yeah, right?
Marvel Man?
Right, James?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Did
and
he
then
have like did a British flag on him or something? Or
well, no, it was just a kind of very similar costumes even, and it was the Marvel Man family. Kid
Mhm.
Marvel Man and Aunt Marvel Man, and yeah. And so they had this group of characters, and they were dopey comics. But then later, Alan Moore got a hold of them and revamped it into this serious, kind of dark take on the Shazam story. And it's one of my favorite comics of all time. But
Is that Miracle Man?
They had to change the name
They had to change the name, right?
because it was too much like Marvel. So they changed it into Miracle Man.
Wow.
Which is being made into a movie, I understand.
It is really.
I think so.
Can't wait.
Wow.
think
Wow. That's such a weird, convoluted history with that.
Yeah.
know.
They should make like a new movie where they get kind of like they did with the Spider-Man movie. They get all the Spider-Mans from the different
Marvelverse?
franchises, just like Marvel Mania, and they just put all the Captain Marvel characters together and fight.
God, I'd just like to see the lawyers fighting that one out. That would be the movie.
yeah. Split my fee.
Anyway, Larry, what do you got?
it's funny you brought up Captain Marvel as Captain Marvel. I wasn't sure of, but there was another captain that I have. But when I was doing my research, do you realize how many Captain somethings superheroes there are?
Like the catch-all.
Oh my gosh! It's and I'm sure we'll bring up some of these. I mean, they're just so many. The one I want to talk about now is actually Captain Science.
I like it.
Now, Captain Science doesn't really have super strength, but it's more like super brain power, and I'll explain. What's really interesting about Captain Science, again, he's from like 1950s, and it's when the atomic age is happening.
Right. Science.
Well, the comic book is actually called Captain Science, and if you to look through it, it has a few stories of Captain Science and then other like space-related heroes. But Captain Science, he's actually Gordon Dane, eminent physicist and researcher. And wouldn't you know, Gordon Dane has a pupil and protege, Rip Gary. And he's about Rip's about 16 or 17 years old. And Gordon,
does he wear pants?
He does, Sean, but he does take Rip on a lot of outdoor trips. Isn't it good to go outdoors? Gee whiz!
Right,
I mean, on one hand, I can imagine if you're like a 15 or 16-year-old kid, you're looking at this, gosh, this is great, this superhero, I'd love to be the protege. And then for other people, they go, hey,
are there like little science lessons and educational stuff in these stories?
Kind of. Here's what happens. How he becomes Captain Science is they're out in the wilderness and a giant flying saucer crash lands. And this alien comes out and he says, Gordon Dane, I've been looking for you for years. I have this special, he calls it's his mechanical indestructible helmet. And he gives Captain Science, who's Gordon Dane, this special helmet. And the helmet tells him he kind of can foresee the future and also see what's happening now in far off distant galaxies. And what they realize, there's these horrible aliens that are on their way to Earth. And it's Gordon's Dane has to like either get Earth to look, there are these aliens that are coming. We've got to stop them. And he has to go out into space to try to get to them before they come to Earth. And he brings along little Rip Sherida, and they encounter catmen, women who are control planets, and it's like it's really I know it's so science fiction-y. No. But it's and he uses the mechanical brain thing to kind of give him the super brain powers.
Okay.
But what I think is cool though, it's a physicist who thought that would be cool and fun, But he also the dude works out. He always has a ripped shirt, you can see his like rippling muscles and stuff like that. What's cool about this is it was created by Wally Wood, a famed weird scientist.
He's awesome.
And this is Wally Wood is this amazing comic book artist, and this is way before he did Two-Fisted Tales and Tales from the Crypt,
EC Comics, and
before he got it, he did this, and he did it with Gustav Schotter and Walter Johnson. And so again, the artwork in this for the day was really, really cool. It was really artistic and beautifully drawn. But again, Captain Science, I guess, they try to do some scientific lessons, but mixing with aliens and it never really hit.
Right.
But it had like something like 40 issues or something like that. So
interesting.
Anyway, Captain
that sounds fun.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
There you go. So Sean, why don't you give us one?
Okay, now I'm going to get into television now, because there were a lot of strange, fascinating attempts at superheroes, either as a backdoor pilot for a series or our TV movie or whatever. And this is a perfect example of this. I remember seeing this in the 80s and like, what was that? It was so strange. So in 1987, CBS did this experimental programming called the CBS Summer Playhouse. And it was basically an anthology series that every week they aired a different unsold pilot.
Okay.
This was during the summer in the hopes of maybe if any of these get good ratings, they can make them into series, right?
Right.
And so this one that I saw was called Infiltrator, starring Scott Bakula as a scientist who's using the Fly style teleportation technology. He's a scientist, and he basically, of course, he tries the teleportation on himself, but unfortunately what he does is he ends up teleporting next door into the laboratory next door where there's this experimental space probe. So he basically merges his body with this experimental mechanical space probe. So all the workings of the probe are like now hardwired in his body. And the probe is designed to react to any kind of danger or threat. So kind of like an Iron Giant, when Iron Giant's this peaceful robot, but you saw when suddenly he's faced with something threatening, he turns into this so the idea that happens kind of with this scientist, with Scott Bakula, like his arm kind of like changes into like a robotic arm, like his skin kind of like shrinks in.
Wow.
So whenever there's like danger, there's action, he can kind of become like a half machine, half man. Really strange.
Wow.
Effects were not great, but I guess for the time, it says 87, maybe it was, so he's chasing after this villain and he works for the government. So the idea was that would be a series, Infiltrator, where he's just, he's a scientist who turns into like a space probe. Really strange.
So you don't see the influence of Fat Man the Flying Saucer on this show.
And so this is just a one-shot thing. It obviously didn't do well enough to make a series, but it was Scott Bakula, Charles Keating, Tim Reed was in it, Deborah Ferrantino, and it was just really interesting if that ever became a superhero TV series. But
Tim Reed, Venus Flytrap from WKRP.
Right.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I mean, the idea, I think I kind of like the idea of like, we're all kind of familiar with the teleportation idea of like, if you another creature, insect or animal gets mixed in there, but the idea of mixing it with something mechanical is kind of interesting, teleporting halfway kind of into a machine. It's just different. So, maybe today that could be done really amazing with some technical effects,
I think plausibility wise, you're going to get a man stuck in the middle of a probe. Dying
or it's more the probe is inside him, because the probe
entirely different.
Yeah. The probe manifests itself, in different ways when there's danger. But
I feel fine except for this probe in my stomach.
Yeah. So, anyway, but I thought it was like definitely weird and a pretty obscure one for a superhero.
Nice.
That's pretty imaginative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, James.
Matt mentioned Alan Moore, and I'm a big Alan Moore fan, and there's an Alan Moore double feature I'd like to bring up. One of them is Supreme. And
great.
Supreme is, it's essentially Superman, but it's Alan Moore's take on Superman. It's like an alternative universe Superman. And it's sort of like, wink, wink. But what he does is he gets into the mythology, the history. And, if Moore had been writing for DC, he may very well have been able to incorporate Superman into this. And it would have been, maybe one of the best Superman, series ever written. As it was, Alan Moore's take on his, the actual Superman comics are brilliant. But Supreme is fascinating because, there's a lot of references to how Superman was treated back in the, way back from the origin in the 30s, the 40s through the 50s, the 60s. And it's very referential. If you're a fan of comics, you get it. It's probably not that obscure to fans of comics and fans of Alan Moore, who are probably already familiar with it. But if anyone is not familiar, I strongly recommend it. It's
brilliant.
A lot of fun.
Is it darker or is it more?
Yeah. How is it? So it's a Superman in an alternate universe. So is it like, well, what does he do? Like,
what's this? Just a tone?
It's not necessarily dark. It has dark moments. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, it's just more thought provoking.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
There's just a lot.
Not so one dimensional.
Right. Exactly. It just ponders a lot of the different, elements of what it means to be, that powerful and to try to live a human life or have a human alter ego, in ways that maybe DC never really explored with the actual Superman and Clark Kent.
So he's brooding more. Is that what it is?
Well, it's very literate. It's very thoughtful. They do get more mileage out of the dog. I think he has a Dalmatian in this one.
Yes, right.
The dog has more to do. Yeah. And the other character, the other series is called Promethea. I actually have the action figure here.
Listeners! Jane just
pulled a little action figure, and this is maybe a little bit of Alan Moore's take on Wonder Woman, but
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, okay.
It's more far flung than that, in that it's a university student, a young woman who learns that she also has this alter ego of Promethea, who's this mythological kind of Amazon who is destined to bring about the apocalypse.
Oh, wow.
And what
baggage?
This is a lot less accessible. Like if you've ever tried to get through the entire series of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
right,
and you see how Moore gets, he gets into like these ancient mythological ideas and characters, and he's doing a lot of drugs, and it's like, wow,
sounds awesome.
Well, Promethea goes down that rabbit hole, and it is less accessible. It's less powerful as far as just general storytelling. But
it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
If you got to give it some time, you got to give it, meditate on it, which is what its whole point is. Between the two of them, I definitely recommend Supreme more, unless you're, a diehard Alan Moore fan, in which case you've already probably read both of them. But anyway, those are superheroes that you haven't necessarily heard of that I do recommend Supreme, especially.
Did she have a cat?
I don't think she had a cat. I think it was a little bit more intellectual. I think his
right.
Yeah, this was also it was like his outlet to talk a little bit more about his sort of esoteric occult philosophy.
Very much. Yeah.
Cool.
So there you go.
All right. Well, I've got one that is a favorite of mine. I saw it in the comic book store and it just called to me. And it was a comic published in 1985 and it's called Dishman. Dishman, created by John McLeod. This was originally a Canadian mini comic, and then they collected them all and published them into one comic collection through Eclipse. Dishman is Paul Muller. He is a history teacher at Leo Gorcey High.
I wish I went to Leo Gorcey.
I know, right?
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Man.
And he's a comic book fan. And after years of washing radioactive Fiestaware, he gains this power to not only instantly clean dishes, like points his hands and the dishes are immediately clean, but also he has the ability to put them in the cupboards where they're supposed to go.
Oh, now
So
you got me.
cleans them, puts them away. And he's amazed. I have this power. I should fight crime. And he makes a costume and he goes out and he doesn't really know how to use this power. And it just kind of makes him a laughing stock. And his fiance leaves him because she thinks he's crazy. But it was really funny in a kind of a low-key, droll way. And there's one scene that I remember specifically where he's walking around and some kids start making fun of him. What are you, Superman? And he goes, no, I'm Dishman. Dishman, what's that? What kind of powers do you have? And he goes, well, do you have some dirty dishes? And the kid goes, yeah. And so he follows the kid up into the kid's house with a bunch of other kids. And they walk into the kitchen and there's this sink full of dirty dishes. And he points his hands and the dishes are clean and they float into the cupboards. And the kids just go, wow. And it's beautiful.
If he stayed home to do the dishes, his girlfriend wouldn't have left him.
I know, right? He's perfect.
Matt, when you first said that,
but his symbol was a cup and saucer.
a dish.
Yeah.
when you first said that name, Matt, I thought it was going to be his power was like those performers who spin the plates on the.
Oh yeah, sure. No, that's a talent.
That's what.
That is absolutely a talent.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I mean, and this is one of those comics that, you store your comics for ages and you don't always go back and look at them. But, then you discover that long box and you go thumbing through them. And I found this recently. And it's just as funny as it was back in the 80s. So it's easy to find. If you go on eBay, I almost said the eBay. What am I becoming?
The eBay.
If you go on the eBay, you could find it and it's worth the, $4 or whatever you're going to pay for it.
Right.
So that puts me in the mind, Matt, of that show that I texted you very excitedly about last night. And I realized it just dropped yesterday. And I happened to just turn on Hulu and it was on. I heard nothing about it, called Extraordinary.
Okay.
And it's a UK series. It's shot with all Irish actors in a city, unnamed city. And everyone in the world has superpowers except the main character, who's a 25-year-old woman. And you get your superpowers when you turn 18. And there's lots of people that can fly and there's people that can do but there's a lot of different superpowers we've never seen before, which is what Dishman made me think of.
That makes me think of the Monty Python sketch, Bicycle Repairman.
Yes, Bicycle Repairman, right.
Yes.
It's like a job. So basically everybody in the world is Superman, except the Bicycle Repairman just repairs bicycles, a regular guy, but he's very useful because nobody knows how to repair a bike.
Yeah. Yeah. So
it's like a job for Bicycle Repairman.
So you could just see the writers in the writers' room for this show coming up with these bizarre, very niche
That'd be
superpowers.
fun.
There's a guy who can basically, his ass is essentially a 3D printer. So he can he literally can produce things from.
That's beautiful.
Unbelievable.
Awesome. But none of them are superheroes. They're just people with powers.
Right.
One guy who can turn back time like 2 minutes at a time decides he's going to put together a superhero cadre. And it fails miserably because everyone has superpowers. So you can't stop anybody.
Right.
It made me think about that, the Dishman thing.
That's funny.
That's great.
I love it.
Wow.
But the other thing, that the TV thing, I'll just segue into what I was going to talk about next, Larry, if that's okay.
Please.
Which was, in 1966, we had Batman.
Right.
Yes.
We had Star Trek. And that got the TV executives thinking. So in 1967, on NBC, we had Captain Nice.
Yep, I remember
And on
Captain Nice.
What?
And on
Captain
CBS,
Nice, right.
and on CBS, out exactly the same time period, we had Mr. Terrific.
That's right.
Yeah.
Two spoofy kind of superheroes.
Yeah, and they both got their superheroes from different things. One guy had a drink and one guy had a pill. Yeah. And one guy was controlled by the government and the other guy had invented it himself. These shows were on a half hour within each other on two different networks, and they both lasted from January to August and then they were gone.
Wow.
No.
But Captain Nice
Captain Nice, yeah.
was played by William Daniels,
Yeah.
the voice of Kit the car.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And there were people like John Daner was in it, and all these, famous
Alice Ghostly. Yeah, love her.
But anyway,
you've
I remember them
watched this?
distinctly. I remember them distinctly as a kid. I watched both of these shows and was just amazed by them, fascinated by them, and then they both went off the air at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
Never to be heard from again.
Trying
Did
to
you
cash
like
in
it?
on that. Yeah.
I loved them. But I was a kid.
Were they funny?
They were sitcoms. They were
Okay.
superhero sitcoms.
Right.
When I was a kid, I found a novel of Captain Nice, one of those paperbacks. And I was like, "What the hell is this?" Because this was before YouTube. It was never in circulation. There weren't enough episodes. It was
Yes.
like, what is this?
Yeah.
And obviously, TV network executives are going, "We got to get this super stuff out there because people are eating it up."
Yeah, more Biff Bang Pow. They just wanted that everywhere. It was like
anyway. So
biggest
there's
thing.
There's a 2 for 1 for me. Captain
Wow.
Nice and Mr. Terrific.
Those are nice, Mark. I don't remember those at all. Those
wanna
are
watch them
really
now.
great.
Yeah.
It's funny. Everyone's brought up stuff that now I'm like really curious about all these ones. So it's
Yeah, me too.
Well, I would also add in that same topic, Super Chicken from
Yes.
1967.
Yes.
I have wanted to
yeah.
do a big screen Super Chicken for years. I'd love to do a serious, dark Super Chicken.
That'd be awesome.
Yes.
now
Called James Gunn.
Super Chicken. The voice was Wally Cox, right? He did this.
Yeah, I think
No, he was underdog. He was underdog.
But,
yeah.
but I think he may have done.
But he did Super Chicken, didn't he?
Did
He may have. He may have.
I don't think
I remember
so.
I remember the bouncy theme music. Like
Yeah.
When it feels like you will get a licking.
yeah.
There is
See-
someone waiting who will hurry up and rescue you. Just
Right.
call for Super Chicken.
Yeah, I used to use
And when they
that as
show,
my ringtone.
did you? That's funny for listeners with Super Chicken. They would show a lot of fast clips, like under a second of like super people, and one of them was Karloff as Frankenstein monster.
Oh,
That's what I remember. Do you remember that, Sean?
They're like almost like Andy Warhol style stills. Yeah.
Wow.
I have one of those shows on 16 millimeter.
Nice.
Do you really?
Yeah,
Nice.
and it's a perfect print too.
Nice.
And these were done by Jay Ward. Who'd done Rocky and
Okay,
Bullwinkle.
yeah.
They were incorporated in the George of the Jungle.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. And it was voiced by a guy named Bill Scott.
Bill
actually, was
Scott.
the voice of Super
Okay.
Chicken. And
Cool.
Paul Frees, who's unavoidable,
Of course.
His side career,
yeah.
played
sure.
his lion sidekick Fred.
Fred, right.
Nice. I love it. That's cool.
Perfect.
Well, maybe it's time to bring up another female superhero that was kind of obscure. And the funny thing is, when I learned about this and I learned more about the comic, I realized maybe this really wasn't the best superhero to come up with. But again, from 1941, from Smash Comics, Wildfire, the Mistress of Flame. And Wildfire was created by Robert Turner and Jim Mooney. Again, these guys went on to do other great comics, but it's funny that Jim Mooney's first wife had this big flowing, big mane of red hair, and he designed the character based on her. And it's interesting how this starts out. There's a forest fire where this little girl who's 5, little Carol Vance, she's out with her dad, and her dad basically gets burned to death in a forest fire. But little Carol isn't hurt by the fire. Fire doesn't harm her. In fact, she likes fire.
Oh,
the
boy.
Lord of Fire comes to look over at the fire that's destroyed this forest, and he sees this little girl that's still alive. And she's playing, and he says, "I take pity on you, and I'm gonna give you the power of fire that you can control fire." She has a line in the comic saying, "Oh, hi, you must be the Lord of Fire." And they have a conversation, and she says, as a little 5-year-old girl, "I like fire." I'm thinking,
hey kids, you can be wildfire too. Set yourself on fire.
Exactly. Well, so as the story goes, when she becomes of age, she has these power over fire, which can launch her into the air, and fire can come out of her fingers and stuff. But what's really cool about this particular comic is it's 1941, and America has just gone into the war. And she is actually battling American Nazis. And it's interesting as you start to read the comic and you see people who have Nazi sympathizers, and it's like, in a way, it's very timely. That's what I found.
Yeah.
No. People who have a certain, how, that kind of thinking, because Nazis, let's face it, Nazis are easy target. It's like, you want a villain? Hey, make it a Nazi. But it's like, there are these American Nazis infiltrating the government and stuff, and she goes to fight them. So it's really kind of cool, really kind of timely. And the artwork of her, it's very sexy. Her red outfit is really, her hair is all flaming, and so the artwork is beautiful. And the Nazi guys, they're just horrible. They actually kidnap a senator and they put like fire underneath him to try to get him to sign something, and it's pretty cool. So again, Wildfire, Mistress of Flame from 1940. But again, it's like after the war effort, she kind of vanished.
Right. Okay.
Before Frederick Wortham in the Comics Code, they must have been able to get away with a lot more salacious stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
More sex, more violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's definitely that. But she fights some other funky villains too, but the Nazis are all throughout there. So anyway, Wildfire,
cool.
Mistress of Flame.
Nice. Never heard that one.
Yeah, near.
Sean?
Okay, so here's one that this is a Marvel character that, I don't know how obscure this character is. To me, it's obscure, but I guess it's been around for a while. This is another female superhero that was created in the 90s by Will Murray and Steve Ditko.
Mm-hmm.
Created this character of Squirrel Girl.
I've never heard of that.
He's kind of made a comeback.
She kind of has. Now, Squirrel Girl, the character in it was Doreen Green, and she found at an early age that she had a prehensile tail. She had a furry tail, and she found that she could communicate with squirrels. Apparently, from what I read, she's not a mutant. She's not considered like an official X-Men mutant. It's just a kind of genetic anomaly that allowed her to have these powers. So she can communicate with squirrels, and she has this big tail. She has buck teeth and sharp claws that she can use. She has enhanced strength and speed and agility, or what she calls squirrel agility. She can climb trees very well, but otherwise she's like a normal looking, young woman. And she had a sidekick squirrel named Monkey Joe. Apparently, at some point, Monkey Joe is killed, and she gets a female squirrel sidekick named Tippy Toe.
Yeah.
But anyway, but she apparently she met Iron Man and wanted to be like his sidekick, and she fought with Wolverine and kind of did well. So I guess she's pretty well known in the Marvel universe. But again, I did not know of her. But what's interesting is that apparently at one point, fairly recently, she was going to be introduced in the MCU into the Marvel films. There was going to be some other, or it was going to be another Marvel TV series with some other, I forget, some lesser known like superhero team, and she was going to somehow be involved in that. So that fell through. But what's interesting is that they had already pretty much cast Squirrel Girl, and it was going to be played by Milana Vayntrub. Milana is the super cute girl in the TNT commercials.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
A very cute girl who's very popular now. And she was cast as Squirrel Girl. Yeah. So maybe, it fell through, but maybe in some other incarnation or some other way she'll appear. But I just think it's got Squirrel Girl. It's Squirrel
Girl
kind of has a nice ring to it. If they did it right, it could be kind of cool.
That's it, Sean. If it's done right, I've never heard of this before. It sounds. I'm intrigued.
But I think for Marvel, Marvel experts probably are saying she's not that obscure. But I didn't know of her. But
I didn't know.
Well, wait a minute. You brought up Monkey Joe and Tippy Toe.
Her sidekicks.
What you might not realize is Monkey Joe and Tippy Toe were members of the Pet Avengers.
I think Squirrel Girl for a while maybe was trying to get into the Avengers, and maybe briefly did too.
The Pet Avengers. Lockjaw was this like big bulldog who could teleport, and he was one of the Inhumans.
Oh yeah, he had like the tuning fork on his head.
Right, exactly. A tuning fork on his head.
I never knew this.
And they had like this group, and there was a dragon named Lockheed. There was Red Wing, who is the Falcon's bird.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was basically a frog version of Thor called Throg. They Howard the Duck,
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Yeah.
Of
that's where he-
course.
and then they
that's where
dusted off
he's-
an old character, Super Rabbit.
Oh my God.
Nice.
And
Oh my-
yeah, I mean, and then there was a I don't know anything about this character, but I saw a picture and it's a monkey named Hit Monkey. And
Nice.
Hit Monkey, the picture I saw is a baboon holding two guns and firing. So like
Oh,
a
wow.
baboon
Nice.
version of the Punisher.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Wow. So then her sidekicks had just as much action, I guess, in the comics as Squirrel Girl herself.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? The Pet Avengers.
Pet
Yeah.
Avengers
Yeah,
sounds
great.
You know,
amazing.
That I want to see.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
guess, Matt.
Oh,
I
yeah.
There's also a cat named Hairball.
Nice.
I don't want to
It was
know what
like-
that power
he is-
is.
He is the cat version of Speedball. Yet another
Oh wow. Jeez. Okay.
unheard of.
Wow.
Oh
Well, I
my
guess
god.
he's popular now, I think.
Well, I would like to see that. And I would like to see Squirrel Girl as played by Milena Vaintrub. I'd be totally into
Yeah,
that.
me too.
I'd be up for that, Sean.
Yeah,
I
maybe they'll
would.
put her in the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know?
Yeah, that
exactly.
would
There you
work.
go,
That would
Yeah,
work.
I mean,
Totally up
something like
James
that. That'd
Gunn's
be.
alley. Yeah, for sure.
You know what? And Matt, you know what? You're speaking of Throg. I remember this in the.
When has
in
that
the-
ever been said?
No, exactly.
That is the greatest.
pretty
That
sure.
is
I'm
the
pretty sure
greatest.
in the low-key TV series there is a little Easter egg where you see Throg because they're coming up from the
Yes.
ground in one shot.
Yes.
You see this
Yes.
weird
I
little
think you're
creature.
right. You're
Yes.
right. You're right.
Gene and I are like, what the fuck is that? We have to look that up. And like we looked it up. It's like, yeah, that's Throg because it was like all the
Wow.
versions of. I think Loki turned him into a frog or something. I don't know, but
Oh,
yeah. So it's
Hilarious.
There's only so much
a
of this I
tapestry.
can
of-
keep
yeah.
straight.
I know.
Yeah.
But
That's
thi-
awesome, though.
this is great, though. This is wonderful.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Throg. That's
Throg.
awesome. Sean, great one. Great
All
one.
right.
All right, James.
Well, we can't talk about obscure superheroes without bringing up Japanese superheroes
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
because
yes.
most of them are obscure.
Yes.
Most of them
Here.
have not made their way to
And
these
there are
heroes.
thousands of them.
There are.
Yes.
And for anybody who thinks that, well, Ultraman started it all and it became, the
Yeah.
Power Rangers later on. No, because in Japanese television, as far back as 1958, they had characters like Moonlight Mask,
Right. Yeah.
otherwise
Yeah,
known as
yeah.
Gecko Kamen, or Jet Boy, otherwise known as Shonen Jet, Planet Prince, otherwise known as Yusei Oji, Spectrum Mask in 1959,
Starman.
Starman, right?
Yeah, totally.
Tiger Mask,
Right.
who was
uh-huh.
a wrestler who wore this was a little later, but a wrestler who wore a tiger mask. Now, we've talked about this before, but Toei Television did their own version of Spider-Man,
Right.
which is
Genius.
fascinating. They had a deal with Marvel. Marvel gave them the rights to do it.
Yeah.
And this is also incidentally how Toei ended up doing an anime version of Tomb of Dracula, because
Hmm.
they were talking to
Oh.
Marvel at the time, and they
Oh, okay.
and it's nothing to do with the Marvel practically nothing to do with the Marvel comic. He's got this big robotic like lion sidekick.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great theme song.
Yes. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I also want to. I think we might have mentioned this before, but in 2007 there was a feature film, a mockumentary called Big Man Japan.
Right.
And it's about if you had an actual Ultraman type character or just an average kind of, Japanese citizen who happens to also be a superhero and can enlarge himself to these huge proportions and fights these ridiculous villains, other monsters like a huge baby and a huge like, good man. But,
Oh.
but it's all done sort of in this very droll kind of tongue-in-cheek sort of like, okay, well, these are commonplace entities in modern day Japan. So it's like, well, they're
Right.
not that surprised by them anymore. Everybody's very blasé about them.
Right.
And the protagonist himself, he's really put upon. He's not wealthy. He's just kind of his average Joe. But it's the last 5-7 minutes is a riff on Ultraman that had me laughing so hard I was crying. So
Nice.
if you haven't seen Big Man Japan, I absolutely recommend it.
It's great. It's
Cool.
uneven, but
Yeah.
when it's sparking, it's great.
It's clever
Cool.
and it's smart and yeah, it's fun. Okay, Matt, what do you got?
All right. Well, I'm going to go back to Marvel, and I'm not too far away from Squirrel Girl and Throg, but
Okay.
this is a character, a very unique superhero Because it's a dinosaur.
A
okay.
dinosaur.
Devil dinosaur.
Devil dinosaur.
Devil dinosaur, a
I've
Marvel
heard of that.
Comics character, and it ran for a bit.
Yeah, I remember the cover, the comic book covers of that look really cool.
Big,
Is
bright
he red?
red. Yeah, he's like a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Yeah.
And he has like this little caveman friend who rides him named Moon Boy. And they live on, get this, Dinosaur World.
Wow.
Which is a version of the Earth in a parallel universe. And so in this universe, dinosaurs and people exist together. And this was created by Jack Kirby, the great Jack Kirby.
Really?
Came out in 1978. This was a dinosaur who is mutated. Now he's got powers that are greater than other dinosaurs. He's got more strength. And he ends up with Moon Boy fighting extraterrestrials and a host of Marvel characters. Like over the years, he has come and gone in all kinds of different books. So aside from his own book, he teams up with Godzilla. He takes on the Skrulls and Hulk, Doctor Doom, anyone that you can think of in the Marvel universe at some point has likely met Devil Dinosaur. And I want Devil Dinosaur in the Marvel MCU.
Yeah. Is a dinosaur, it's like he's super intelligent. Does he talk?
I don't remember him talking, but I do remember that he's more intelligent than your average human. But he's just a cape? He does not have a cape. No, he's not. No.
Does he have a pitchfork?
We could give him one, but I don't think that's a good idea.
So
how about a collar, maybe?
He fights crime.
yeah, that's what he does. He hangs out in an alley.
Dinosaur crime.
Yeah.
Right.
How dare you become extinct? That's a crime.
Right. Yeah. He fights any sort of meteor that threatens to make them extinct.
But yeah, I mean, look, I'm still waiting for Fin Fang Foom to be.
Right. Yeah, no, bring them all in.
They have to bring that eventually into MCU. But yeah, you're bringing Devil Dinosaur.
Devil Dinosaur. I mean, and this is a character again who's hung around and has been with all kinds of Marvel characters. And you bring Moon Boy, and I think at one point there was a Moon Girl, and so you could, kind of change it around for today's audience. It could be fabulous. Now the only thing that you could see a problem with is the secret identity thing. Is you can't just he is a mild-mannered regular Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Wow, that's interesting. I love it.
Or maybe he masquerades as an entirely different dinosaur to fool.
A gentleman dinosaur.
Stegosaurus.
Matt, thanks to Wikipedia. On the USA channel on February 10th of this year, a series debuts called Marvel's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
No.
You know what? I say this and it happens. Yep. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yep.
It's going to be a new Marvel TV series?
February 10th.
Animated or live action? That's insane.
I don't know. I can't tell.
Wow. Either way, I'm watching it.
Yeah, I'm there.
I'm actually just as surprised that there's still a USA cable chip. I didn't know they were still.
You know what? It isn't. It's going to be on Disney. It's going to be on Disney.
Yeah, I'm looking at now. Yeah, you're right.
Right?
It's a TV series and it's animated. So it looks like maybe a little bit more towards kids.
Your dream came true.
Yeah.
You know what? I am truly manifesting tonight. I really are.
It's like this. It's just like the lathe of heaven.
I know.
Matt Weinhold is creating reality as we speak.
And yet you're all still here.
Wow.
Right. So Devil Dinosaur. Come on.
There you go.
I'm excited, but I want that thing to be live action. Yeah. And a guy in a suit, by the way.
Yeah. Looking at the little trailer thing, it looks like it's kind of done like Dexter's Laboratory style animation.
Right.
Yeah. But it looks rather charming and cool, though.
I like Dexter's.
Yeah.
I like it too, but
you don't really like it. Don't say that.
No, I do like it.
I like it. You're all
No. It's not. It's not Dexter's Laboratory. I'm a little hesitant about the style of animation. I would like Larry. Come on, the person who loves dinosaurs. Don't you want the dinosaur devil dinosaur to be taken.
Yeah, it could be like done really like kind of
scary.
You know, if he wears a tie or something, I'm gonna go, oh man, I don't know.
But that's probably what will happen in a Dexter's Universe world.
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, hey,
come on, you want what I want, and I don't know why you're waffling on this at all. Just to spite me.
No, there's no spite.
How far we've come, and now you take us back a step.
No. I want to hear what Mark has to say though, because I'm sure he's got one. He's got another one ready.
So that's your way of saying I'm done. Okay.
No,
go ahead, Mark.
No.
And scene.
All right, mine's a thing called Angel Dinosaur, and it's
Dinosaur Detective.
No, my next one is one you guys have probably heard of. So he's not totally obscure, but Matt knows this is one of my favorite characters that I keep trying. You talk about manifesting. I want someone to make this a movie, and that's DC's Creeper, the Creeper.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
I don't know
if
I'm familiar with this character.
Okay, the Creeper started. It was a miniseries in 2006, comic book miniseries, but he used to show up in like Batman because he lived in Gotham City, and he was a TV reporter named Jack Ryder. And his origin story is fantastic. He's helping this scientist get across the border, and the scientist has been working on this thing that it would allow soldiers to hide all of their equipment with this sort of interdimensional thing. So it would be on them, but you couldn't see it. And it was a device they would click, and all of a sudden they're in their uniforms with their guns and everything else. So you could sneak all these troops into different countries.
Cool.
And so these assassins are trying to kill him, and Jack Ryder gets injured trying to help him escape. He doesn't even want to be part of this. And the scientist implants this thing in Jack Ryder's palm of his hand underneath the skin, and he drugs him up while he's doing the operation. So every time he activates this, and he's at a costume party when this happens. So this is a typical DC origin story where you're going, what the fuck? And he's in yellow makeup, and he's wearing like this sheepskin rug as a cape on his back. And he just looks insane. He's got a green wig and all this stuff. And so when he activates this thing, he's just in his Jack Ryder suit, his TV suit with a tie. And then when he activates the thing, not only does he turn into this bizarre costume character, but the drugs come back into his system. So he's always out of his mind when he's the Creeper. And so he's
that's a cool idea.
He's almost like Deadpool, because he's completely sort of almost through the fourth wall, and he's out of his mind, and none of the other DC characters ever want to be with him because he's completely unpredictable.
Was the comic line done in a silly way, or is it done kind of straight? Or
he was introduced in sort of a straight way in Batman as this sort of like
unstable
thing that Batman
kind of
had helped him. And then the miniseries was a little bit more sort of tongue in cheek, I think, because it was just how do you handle that bizarreness? But to see that in more of a realistic fashion.
Yeah, right. Well, like we said, if they can do Guardians of the Galaxy and Mr. Polka Dot and all that, and Peacemaker, then if someone does it right,
Yeah. Anyway, so the Creeper,
weird.
If I could make the Creeper come to life,
wow, I love the name too, Creeper. That's great.
Yeah.
Mark, what's the date on the Creeper?
Well, the miniseries was in 2006. It was again another Steve Ditko invention, by the way. Steve Ditko and Don Segal.
Nice.
Yeah, and James, wasn't the Creeper in at least? I think it was in one of those Batman animated series or one of the movies. I can't remember exactly which, but I think there's an animated version of the Creeper.
And Jack Ryder has shown up in the Arrowverse, but just as Jack Ryder. So I think they thought, well, maybe we'll have a chance to introduce the Creeper, but never came about.
Interesting.
Wow, that is interesting. All right, well,
Larry.
Well, I have something that's kind of funny. This guy didn't do drugs, okay, but
kids,
it is kind of another goofy superhero. And actually, in a way, maybe he doesn't really have superpowers. And this is from Smash Comics, starting again in 1941. It's the Jester.
Okay.
You guys know about the Jester?
Okay. I think I've seen
Yeah,
this.
sounds
Yeah.
familiar.
Look, I'm a regular Joe. Okay, I wasn't familiar.
Stop
with
saying that.
We know.
Stop saying that. You are
But listen-
anything but regular.
Okay,
Yeah, you're
Or
the
Joey.
farthest thing from a regular person, Larry.
What's funny about the Jester just makes me laugh when you look at these superheroes that are trying to be all dark and stuff. Here's this guy. This was created by Paul Gustafson, who again he goes on to do other great artwork. But he creates this character called Chuck Lane, who's a rookie cop, and he's a rookie cop who felt that he could do more good than by just being a cop. And it turns out that he learns that he has these distant ancestors who was a jester for a king. So
how did he look up that? Is that like on?
But he uses his ancestor. He goes, "Hey, I'm going to be my ancestor," and he gets this. Yes, guys, it's just what you think. The goofy little jester hat,
Right.
and little goofy jester costume, and he becomes a comical crime fighter, making a laughing stock at criminals.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
And what he does is, as a cop, as a rookie cop, when he wears his cop outfit, his jester outfit is underneath his uniform.
Okay.
He's out there solving crimes. He goes, "Well, this looks like a job for the jester." And takes off his police outfit. I'm thinking, this has got to be one of the stupidest things I've ever heard.
How do you hide the sound of bells when you're at work?
Yeah.
Matt, exactly my thought too. But he does go off to fight villains such as Lady Satan.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just it's one of those things where it's to me it's kind of I see where they're trying to go. Hey, let's poke fun at crime, but it was something that never really took off. I was waiting for Mark to go, "Well, Larry, did you know they made a TV series?" And
Yeah.
I didn't know that, Mark. But apparently, so Mark, they did not make a TV series of the Jester.
Not yet.
No, but
Are you kidding me? What?
Marvel Comics also had two different Jesters. One that appeared with Daredevil, and one that appeared, I think, just on his own.
Wow.
And there's other Jesters throughout comics. There's like at least 6 other Jesters.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Jester crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how we say there are other characters of there's
like
one
Captain Marvel, the different
Captain Marvel,
Yeah. And Jester is such a kind of a common concept. The Jester.
Yeah.
I just like that he somehow found out that that he looked up ancestry.com and I had Jesters
the 40s,
in my
Sean. They didn't have that. They didn't have it then.
So how did he find it out?
He was like he liked to tell jokes, and it's like, well, your great grandfather.
That's hilarious.
And then so but then to put on a Jester and what will possess you to go, I'm going to take off my cop outfit because now I'm really intimidating wearing my Jester outfit.
Yeah. Well, he's fighting crime with comedy. Come on.
Striking fear in the hearts of criminals.
I prefer bullets, but
yeah.
Anyway, the Jester did not last long.
Wow.
I tell you, but anyways, but he is an obscure superhero.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Nice.
The Jester.
Maybe James Gunn will bring him back.
Yeah,
since he's
we'll
running
never know.
DC, right?
If we could see Throg in Power of the Dog, maybe we will see the Jester eventually.
Yeah. Love it.
Sean.
All right, here's another obscure TV superhero or would-be superhero that never went anywhere. This was a 1986 TV movie on ABC called North Star. North Star starred BJ and the Bears' Greg Evigan as astronaut Jack North. And Jack North was in space and he was exposed to strange solar radiation while up in space. So when he came back to Earth, he realized instead of being like burned to a crisp by this solar flare radiation, he acquired superpowers like super strength, speed, agility, and a genius IQ. But the only thing is, though, he only has these powers when he's staring into the sun. So during the day when he's not wearing sunglasses, he has these powers, but he can only retain these powers and not wear sunglasses for a certain amount for like minutes at a time. Otherwise, he'll implode or something. He'll explode, right? He'll overload. So,
Can he
so
see? Is
basically-
he blind?
No, he can see, but he has to. So, in other words, he's a normal guy during the day as long as he wears his sunglasses. and at night he cannot wear because there's no sun around. But when he takes off his sunglasses during the day, he becomes super powerful. So yeah, and he fights crime, and he fights some guy. I don't know what the plot of it was. A TV movie intended to be a possible pilot, and it never went anywhere. And there's like shots of him staring, and like you see the electricity like in his eyes, and it's super cheesy. Played pretty straight, if I remember. It's weird because it reminds me. It's in a way, it's like a superhero version of the Hideous Sun Demon. Because the Hideous Sun Demon, Robert Clark is exposed to radiation, right, and it's like the opposite of the werewolf. When the moon rises, he turns to a werewolf. Well, in the Hideous Sun Demon, when he's exposed to the sun, he turns into a lizard monster. But anyway, so North Star gets his powers from the sun, but he can only use those powers for a certain amount of time. Then he has to wear shades.
Was it derivative? Was it derivative of all? I remember a North Star that was like a Canadian superhero.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a different. I'm pretty sure. I think I looked it up too. That's a different superhero. I don't think that's connected. I'm pretty sure. But this is So this is like a one-shot TV movie. Intended to be with the Greg Evigan. So unfortunately, we never had the North Star long-running TV series. Yeah,
I think a Canadian squad of superheroes would be interesting.
Well, they had one, Alpha Flight.
Oh,
that's right. Yeah.
Familiar. Yep. That's cool.
They also had like West Coast Avengers.
Yes,
right.
Yeah.
They have like a European
West
star.
Coast, Middle America.
Right.
Yeah,
Michael Belt.
Simi Valley Avengers.
Rust Belt Avengers.
Rust Belt.
We're just kidding, though. We're just kidding.
No, they're all they're all real, Larry. They're all TV series coming out next week.
Listeners, go and find these comics.
No, you know we're joking. We're
all
joking.
true.
Wow, you really are the joke annihilator.
Kill the joke. You just killed the joke, Larry. You just cannot run with it. You just can't run with it.
I don't want people to get wrong information.
Nobody
you just can't go.
Do you understand like the cadence of someone's voice when they're telling a joke, and people know when you're exaggerating?
The anti-jester.
Yeah.
That's Larry's superpower.
There you go. Yeah.
The joke killer.
Yeah, he's like a
killer.
Yeah, he's like a comedy. He's like a comedy queen in Las Vegas.
I want to sabotage this up and coming comic at this event tonight. Send in Larry.
The heckler.
I'll take care of it.
No.
Oh, I would know. I don't like that.
Heckler. It's not heckling. It's worse than heckling. It's just he just destroys the moments.
Oh, come on.
How about a crowd loser?
Okay.
Although, come to think of it, the heckler would not be a bad name for a villain.
No, that's true. There has to be one, I think.
All right.
Well,
All right.
But
Okay.
James, take us out of here.
Okay, this is from the DCU from 1962, co-created by Jerry Siegel and John Forte, Matter Eater Lad.
Oh,
I think I've heard of that guy.
Mark probably knows about this guy.
Yeah.
He basically his superpower is he can eat anything. He can even eat Superman. He can just eat anything.
That's kind of awesome.
Because he comes from the planet Bismol.
Oh, no.
Oh my God.
Where, like, if you're from Krypton, you don't really have superpowers, but then you go to Earth and you have the powers. If you're on planet Bismol, you can't eat anything. But if you're from Bismol and you come to Earth, you can eat anything. And he was Adventure Comics number 303 from 1962. He became a member of the Justice League, and from what I can tell, he's also like been in more recent animation, maybe Teen Titans or
okay.
And I'm sure it's with a wink, and because anybody like with a name like Matter Eater Lad,
him and Fat Man should get together.
Yes,
just hit the buffets in Vegas.
Yeah, right.
He has been referred to as Emmy Lad for short.
Okay.
But Mark, do you know anything about this character?
Well, I don't think he was Justice League. I think he was Legion of Superheroes, which was always great. That was in the 30th century, and they had the worst superheroes. They had Bouncing Boy was in the Legion of Superheroes. It was just an immense fat guy who could bounce.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like a ball. And then they had phantom girl who used to be triplicate last, but one of her 3 bodies was killed by a criminal. And so she became a duplicate girl or something like that.
I thought it was going to be double dame.
Oh yeah, I like that.
But Matter Eater Lad is also one of those oft mentioned heroes in Peacemaker, where he talks about he had to team up with Matter Eater Lad, who ate a building. Said he ate a building.
Right, that's awesome. I like it.
Wow, nice one.
He has been animated. I've seen pictures of him as a recent animated character. Maybe it's on Teen Titans. I don't know where he showed up, but
that's the thing. Like some of these obscure ones now are getting their appearances. They're showing up.
Maybe this is why DC had to kill off all those alternate Earths.
Yes,
because it's ridiculous. We're never going to use these characters again. Let's just erase that chalkboard.
Yes,
right.
Nice.
All right, Matt.
So I don't know if you guys ever watched. There was a Hulu show that I was not aware of called Hellstrom. That was based on Damon Hellstrom, who was the son of Satan in Marvel Comics.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And in the Marvel Comics, he wasn't wearing a shirt. He had a big red cape. He had a pentagram on his chest. And I never saw the show, but apparently in the show, there was a female version of the character I'm about to mention. In the show, she's named Gabriella. In the comics, he is named Gabriel the Devil Hunter. And this was in the 70s, and he's an exorcist. And his story is, he's a teacher at Columbia. He discovers his wife is murdered, but all the doors are locked, so he can't figure out how anyone got in there. He's grief-stricken, so he joins a seminary, takes the holy orders, becomes a priest, and then he gets possessed by a demon named Catherine. Damn you, Catherine. It compels him to rip out his right eye, set fire to his holy sacraments, and burn his house down.
Wow.
No.
So then Gabriel grabs a red hot metal cross and puts it on his naked chest. And now he's seared a cross into his flesh. So from this point on, he decides to become an exorcist, and he has an assistant named Desadia. And sometimes he'll use his chest cross to piss off the demons.
Right.
This was a character that I discovered in the Marvel magazines, like Monsters Unleashed.
Yeah.
And I thought it was kind of a cool character. Apparently, it's a very dark character.
What?
It sounds a little bit like Constantine, a little bit.
Yeah, but like he seems to have terrible luck. It's just like his life just like falls apart. He helps Franklin Richards when he's possessed by Nicholas Scratch. So he, works with the Fantastic Four, but gradually his life starts to crumble. And at the same time, he's plagued by demons, of course. He retires for a while. He writes occult news stories for the World Gossip Weekly. He even performs mock exorcisms for people who like the occult. And his assistant ends up being killed. And so by the time the end of his character, he's depressed, he's an alcoholic, and he's on the verge of suicide.
If he was DC, they'd put him in the Super Friends.
I know.
Yeah, right.
By the end of his career, he gets into this fight with the son of Satan. And after that, he's just insane. He's just this babbling lunatic.
Wow.
And so then Damon Hellstrom leaves him in the care of the Gargoyle. The Gargoyle. Wow. That's how he ends his career.
Wow.
After all of that, you got the Gargoyle taking care of you.
Wow.
That's got to be a Baby Jane situation.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting.
That is an interesting character. I never heard of that character before.
Yeah,
never have I.
No one watched the Hellstrom show?
No,
I know of it, but no, I've not seen that. That's one of like 8,000 shows and movies I haven't been able to catch up on yet. Yeah.
In that version, it's Gabriella Rossetti.
Huh. Okay.
Played by Ariana Gura. But I never watched the show. So now I'm kind of, now that I realize that there was a show,
right.
sort of interested, but not really.
But yeah.
So there you go.
All right.
Nice one. Wow, guys, this has been so much fun. We've talked about so many different
many choices.
Superheroes.
It's been super fun.
I mean,
has
I know that we can revisit this topic again because I have a whole bunch, but
because I've already forgotten the ones we mentioned.
Well, what do you guys say we do a lightning round? We just maybe mention a couple really quickly and move on.
Really fast. Yeah, really fast. Like the Flash or Quicksilver. Go.
Lightning lad.
Sure.
Right.
Go ahead, Mark.
In the spirit of Squirrel Girl, there was a character from the horrible Charlton comics. They had an offshoot called Charlton Bullseye, and it was their superhero, and this was Thunder Bunny.
Nice.
Thunder Bunny is a kid who got this box from outer space that he could turn into a large pink rabbit.
Wow.
Who could fly and had super strength. And the longer he stayed the rabbit, the harder it was for him to turn back into his regular self. So he was super embarrassed to be a giant pink rabbit, and he hated doing it, but he would do it to fight crime.
That sounds terrific.
Right,
I like that. That's cute. I like that.
And then there was another comic called Nightmare and Sleepy.
I know this one. I know this one. Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Nightmare and Sleepy had no superpowers whatsoever, but they would dress really creepily. And again, it was an adult male and a teenager who was sleepy, and they would just kind of terrorize people. They would dress up in spooky costume. It was kind of like Scooby-Doo.
But Mark, what was Nightmare by day? He was a professional wrestler.
Yes.
He's a professional wrestler by day.
So he's
and
huge.
And he had a mask, and then he at night, okay, now I'm gonna put on my super outfit to go fight crime.
Yes.
Weird.
Nightmare and Sleepy.
And just really quickly, one of the villains they fight is a guy called the Checker. And you know what the Checker does? Well, he captures people and has them play a game of checkers with him. And if they lose, then he's going to do something terrible to the town. Or he captures this mayor and he goes, I'm going to play checkers. And if you lose, I'm going to blow up this bank. So it's
wow.
Another one of their enemies was the corpse that steals living men's faces.
A long title.
We should do obscure villains. That's what we should.
Yeah.
Mark, but those are great. Oh
like
my gosh. Oh my gosh.
What do you
Nightmare
got,
and Sleepy. Okay, just really quickly too. A comic that I think is a little stupid, but he is a superhero. It's Invisible Justice, and Invisible Justice is by Art Gordon, and it's about Kent Thurston, alias the Invisible Hood. And he has it's like a blanket that he pours these special chemicals on that makes anyone who puts it over him invisible. Now it's like in Harry Potter, the invisibility cloak.
Right.
But the goofy thing is, guys, in the comic, he's supposed to be invisible. So it's like a dotted outline of just the figure of him. I'm looking at him like, this is so dumb because you can't see him. You see an outline, but it's just not as cool. You see people going, they're being attacked by the Invisible Justice, or the Invisible Hood, I should say. And it's a little goofy, but I think this one is really unusual. It's called The Purple Trio. And this only lasted from about 1940 to 42. It's these three vaudevillians. And
you got me.
Already I'm terrified.
You got me.
Matt, you're going to love this because these three vaudevillians, since it's in the 40s, they're not getting many calls, okay? And basically these three guys, one is Rocky Hill, is the strongman acrobat. And then you've got Warren, who's a stage magician and ventriloquist. And then Tiny Todd, the little person. It's these three guys.
Wow.
They're all different sizes.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And basically how they make money is they help solve crimes. Okay.
Wow.
And typically things that happen, it starts out in kind of a comical way. And these guys, they have no money, or they have very little money, and they're all sleeping in the same bed. And it starts out, hey, who has the dog barking? It's not a dog, it's a seal. A seal has gotten into the room. And the seal leads them on this thing where they encounter a bad guy and help the cops, and they get a few bucks for it. But it's the Purple Trio. It's
sounds like the Three Stooges.
That's what I was going to say.
And it's so unusual there is some stuff that's very dated of the times.
Sure,
but,
right.
But when I saw it, I just started to crack up. I had never seen it before. The Purple Trio, also in Smash Comics. So there you go. There's a couple.
Nice. Wow. All right. Here's a few. Larry, you had mentioned the Jester. There was another guy, I think in the 40s, called Funny Man. Funny Man was a short-lived superhero, and created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, who created Superman.
Superman.
No.
And he basically, Funny Man was a guy named Larry Davis, and he was a TV comedian. And one of his shows, he did this publicity stunt dressed as a clown, where he defeats like an actor playing a crook who's robbing a bank or something, right? But there was some kind of mix-up. He didn't realize that it turned out that guy wasn't an actor. He really was a crook.
No.
and he stopped him. So Larry decides to fight crime as Funny Man, the clown. Okay.
Oh
so
my
that
God.
One, here's another obscure TV movie on NBC from 1977 called Exo-Man.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Basically, a slapdash ripoff of Iron Man, basically.
Right.
It's a professor is shot and paralyzed by mobsters, so he designs a superpowered armored suit that allows him to walk and fight crime. And David Aykroyd plays him. Jose Ferrer is in it. Donald Moffat, Kevin McCarthy, Jack Colvin, who played Jack McGee, the reporter, and the Hulk. It was a blatant Iron Man ripoff, and it was co-written by Martin Caidin. Martin Caidin wrote the novel Cyborg, which became the $6 Million Man TV series. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So Exo-Man was a potential pilot for a series that never went anywhere. It was this outfit's really goofy. It kind of looks a bit like, the early versions of Iron Man when he's in the cave making it. It's that bulky, but it's instead of eyes, like just a big visor. It's pretty lame looking. And then I have to say, finally, there was I think it was just a one-shot comic from the 80s, art by Neil Adams, for Pacific Comics, called Skate Man.
Yes. Skate Man.
Skate Man is like this Vietnam vet turned roller derby star. But he's kind of down and out and always looking for money and jobs. But he uses his martial arts and his skating skills to clean up the streets.
I have a Skate Man quote in this book.
Nice.
Hands off, jerkhole. We're forming a union. My foot and your face.
Nice. So there you go. There's a mine.
Those are great, Sean.
It kind of reminds me of, like, if you were going to film this, it would be like that movie Jim Cotta. Do you know the movie Jim Cotta?
Oh yeah, of course. Classic.
And Jim Cotta is like, it's like a martial arts film, but there just happens to be these rods all over the city where people can do gym moves.
Right. Yeah. Wherever there's rods, you can do his superpowers. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That one is beautiful. That's a great movie. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Sometimes these things are created to be spoofs of comics and heroes. And so in the spirit of Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
And Captain Carrot and the Amazing Zoo Crew.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to bring up this movie from 1999, Mystery Men.
Oh yeah.
It's an ensemble of, I love it too. It's just, Greg Kinnear plays Captain Amazing. The city.
He's the best part of the movie.
He's the only one that actually has superpowers.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, right.
He gets abducted, so it's up to all these like amateur superheroes to rescue him, and that includes Ben Stiller as Mr. Furious.
Right, he just gets mad.
Hank Azaria as the Blue Raja, and William
He uses forks, right?
And William H. Macy is the shoveler.
Right.
That's a lot of fun.
And Paul Rubin is the spleen.
The spleen,
right? Yeah, passes gas a lot, right?
Yeah. Also, more recently on South Park, you've got Coon and Friends, which is, we all probably played superhero when we were kids and tied up capes to, towels to be capes, right? But here you've got Eric Cartman as a raccoon with no awareness that it's actually a racial slur, right? But he's calling himself Friends. Because one of their other friends, Butters, has become Professor Chaos. So now they're suddenly like our arch enemies. Part of Coon and Friends' group includes kid heroes such as the Mosquito, Mint Berry Crunch, Tupperware, and Tool Shed.
Nice.
Nice. Love it.
And then finally, in Jingle All the Way, this Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from 2006.
Yes.
He's the whole thing is about he's hunting for the ultimate Christmas present for his kid, which is this really popular action figure of Turbo Man, this fictional superhero. Turbo Man doesn't exist, but what's remarkable is that I've seen people cosplaying at conventions as Turbo Man.
Oh wow!
And I just think that, like, I don't like the movie Jingle All the Way, but I think
it's pretty awful
thing that there are people cosplaying as Turbo Man.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I like it. That's a good.
Nice one, James.
All right. Well, you know what? I'd like to give you guys a couple of actual good comics. One of them, right off the bat, is there was a comic that was published by Eclipse Comics in the 80s, only ran for 8 issues, called The Liberty Project. And it's Kurt Busiek, early Kurt Busiek work. And it's kind of like the Suicide Squad. There are these criminals that they turn into a superhero team. There's Burnout, who is the youngest member of the team. And she's, of course, angry and has pyrotechnic abilities. And then there's a really strong woman, Rosalita Vasquez, who's Cimarron. And she was originally arrested for destroying the Las Vegas Strip after losing her last dollar at slots.
Nice.
And there's Crackshot, who can hit anything he shoots at. So yeah, and then there are a bunch of other characters. There's a monster, and there's the leader of the team who's like, his name is Slick, and he can, make surfaces slippery, and he slides around on them. And it's kind of funny, but it's also an exciting book too. And it was great. And then Mark, you might remember this, Alien Legion. Remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah, which was like an alien foreign legion in space.
Oh, wow.
Right.
And the leader was Saragar, who was, think of like a centaur, but the bottom half is a snake.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then there's a human guy, and there's a bunch of other aliens, but then there's this one guy named Jugger Grimrod, and he's kind of the Wolverine. He's just an asshole, and it's just fun. And it was done around the time of Star Wars, so it has some of those influences. But it's super fun, and it was created by Carl Potts, Alan Zelenetz, and Frank Sirocco, and it was part of Epic Comics. And that was a great one. How about this one? Do you remember Dreadstar?
No.
Nobody remembers.
I remember the title.
Dreadstar was another book from Epic Comics, which was another arm of Marvel. And and this whole thing centered on Van Dreadstar, who is the sole survivor of the Milky Way. The Milky Way has been destroyed.
Wow.
And now he's got this cast of crewmates. And again, it's a sort of like a Star Wars vibe. It's a big space opera. And he's got a companion who is a cyborg sorcerer named Syzygy Darklock. And they're trying to end this war between these two empires. One is the Church of the Instrumentality, run by the Lord Papal, and they're like this evil theocracy. And then you've got the monarchy, which is like a monarchy. It's a monarchy. It's a space monarchy. Right. But the one thing that makes this series so great is that it was created and drawn and written by Jim Starlin. And I don't know if you're familiar with Jim Starlin's work, but check it out. Look him up, because he would do this type of artwork that was so precise. Like when Jim Starlin does a crowd scene, every person in that crowd has a face.
Right.
Everything is just meticulous. And this was really a true space opera on paper.
Right.
And Jim Starlin also did Adam Warlock. Maybe you're more familiar with that book.
Yeah.
But those were great books, and I miss them. Now, on the more comedic side, there was a book that came out, and it was by Carrie Callens, and it's called The Directory to a Non-Existent Universe. And so it was a parody of those, the profiles of all the superheroes from DC or Marvel.
Yeah.
And it did these really funny characters. And they only did one of them, but the characters are so funny. For example, there's the Black and Blue Panther. And the Black and Blue Panther is this guy who, he's coming home one night and he gets mugged and beat up. And then he gets mugged and beat up again. And he starts to like it. And he gets mugged and beat up again, and then he likes it even more. So he decides, if I'm a superhero, I'll attract crime and they'll kick my ass.
Oh,
And so he doesn't really have any powers. He just has this outfit with arrows pointing to where you can hit him.
That's awesome.
That's so good. Yeah.
Does he manage to stop the crime?
Oh no, it's
Like,
not about that.
He just keeps them occupied, I
It's
guess.
not about that.
Right.
Until the
It's all
cops
about-
show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Right.
no. Yeah. Like, and then he's mad when they show up.
Oh, wow.
There's a great Swamp Thing character who's just made of vegetables, and his name is Pete Moss.
Oh,
But I think my favorite one of all, is Grow Arm Hair Lad.
What?
Grow arm hair, lad?
Grow Arm Hair Lad. And this is a
Wow.
mutant, Harold Kid, and he has this ability to grow the hair on his arm very long at will.
It's kind of like Medusa, like the superhero and Medusa hair, and she can wrap around villains and throw
But
them around.
all it does, it's just long. It doesn't do anything. It's just
Okay.
long arm hair. Okay.
Nice.
And he decides, of course, to become a superhero.
yeah.
But he's living with his mom, and he makes this costume that says GAHL. But he tells his mother that it's a costume for the school play called Ginger's Amazing Hanging Lips.
What?
So that's how he explains his uniform. And the only other thing that he has on his uniform is a razor to shave the hair off.
Nice.
And so that's it. That's my favorite one. Maybe one of my favorite. It's up there with my favorite superheroes of all time. Grow Arm Hair Lad.
Wow.
But yet he doesn't give up. He really wants to be a superhero.
He has the attitude, right?
Yes.
That's cool.
So there you go.
I love
We're
it.
going out on
Lovely.
Grow Arm Hair Lad.
Wow.
Nice.
Good night, everybody.
Wow.
You heard it here, folks.
These are some really obscure superheroes. This has been great.
Yeah.
This is a lot,
Yeah, this is a good one.
Much
fun.
This
Mark-
easily can be a series of
Oh, yes.
shows,
Oh, yes.
by the way. Yeah.
Mark,
Yes.
thank you so much, buddy,
My
for being
pleasure.
with us and
Yeah.
giving some really great obscure superheroes.
thank
I had
you.
no
Beautiful.
idea. Really
Bring me back
great.
for the supervillain one. I got
Yes.
more.
Yeah,
Got
for
it.
sure.
Do. Now,
Yeah.
Mark, is there anything you're working on right now, or where people can listen to you? Or check out
Yes,
your
well,
stuff?
there's the Succotash Comedy Soundcast dropping every Tuesday, and I have a co-host that we're not co-hosts that do the show together. We switch off weeks,
Mhm.
so because we're all very busy clipping episodes, like from Monster Party, and
Right.
so to give ourselves
Right.
a break, we switch off every other week. So
Cool.
doing that. In fact, I should have the whole lot of you on. I've had Matt on before, but I should have all
Yes.
you guys
Yeah,
on
we should
for
all do it.
We
for an
absolutely
episode.
have to be on your
Yeah.
show.
Yeah,
Yes.
that would be great.
Yeah,
Let's
love
do
it.
that.
So you haven't invited all of us to the show yet?
Well, you know what? I
What
got those emails bounced back, Larry. I don't know what happened. You gave me the wrong
Ah, you were-
address or something.
You were
I'm
doing
not
the
sure.
Ghostbusters show, so
Yeah.
we couldn't get a hold of you.
And then this will be right up your alley, but I can't reveal too much information about it. But
Uh-oh.
about 12 years ago, I wrote a comedy horror movie with Dana Carvey.
Oh, okay.
And we are currently in the process of attempting to actually get it going.
Wow.
Fantastic.
Because he's been doing this podcast with David Spade
Okay.
called Fly on the Wall, where they interview past SNL cast members.
Oh, nice.
Cool.
And he
great.
says he's now gotten a little bit of heat going, and so he's bringing this script to his new agents, and we've got his two sons involved. They're in their 20s now,
Wow.
and they're living in LA. And we've talked about either doing it as a graphic novel to start with, and then use that to sell it as a screenplay, or just try and get the screenplay sold. So that's very
Right.
exciting. I wish I could tell you. I can tell you. I can't even tell you the title of it, but
That's
Okay,
okay.
let me just ask you this, Mark. In your current script version of it, is the horror played straight?
the horror is played straight.
Okay, that's one of the key things to
very
horror
good.
comedies.
Yes.
Yes,
In
yeah.
fact, in fact, there are no jokes in the script, although it's incredibly funny because it's all in the characterization.
Situational and character. Okay,
Yes,
that's great.
but yes,
Sure.
yes, the horror is all played straight. We use 3 sort of existing monster archetypes, but we blend them into their own ecosystem. So they're all connected. So they've never been
Okay.
connected before. We've never seen this before. So
Nice.
it's wholly original from that standpoint. So when I can tell you more, I will
Yeah.
tell you.
Awesome.
Very cool.
When you
That
get
sounds
further
incredible.
along, we'll have you back, and perhaps we could hear more about it. But Mark,
I
it's
will
very
give
exciting.
Monster Party the exclusive. How about
All
that?
right.
Yeah.
Nice.
If you don't mind, I do want to bring up the fact that you do this naming because people
do.
forget, but I just think that is such a cool, unique job of naming things.
So
like you
how
named
does this?
products
Yeah, I've
over the
been in-
years.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So you come up with like,
BlackBerry was yours, correct?
Yes. I've-
oh, right. That's
Oh.
right. I remember.
Yes,
So
I've
like
been-
different items or different things like you come up,
companies,
you research and you come up with like the right name.
services. And I've been doing branding for over 30 years now. I work for a company called Landor and Fitch. I'm a director of naming and verbal identity, and we do names and messaging and brand voice. And
Nice.
I
Wow.
was either part of or wholly responsible for things like BlackBerry and the Swiffer from Procter and Gamble.
No.
Really? I love
Yes.
Swiffer.
Yes.
I have one.
There you go.
So do we.
Too.
Yeah.
They're
Just-
wonderful.
And you know, Matt, I always say to myself, that's such a clever little name. I love
Yes,
my
me too.
Swiffer.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. It's such an interesting job. Like and your process too, because I've talked to you, you
Yeah.
know, in our private times, and you've told me some of the things you do and the research that you do to come up with some of these names. But you know, like Zima, I remember you telling me that it was like a Russian word for cold or something like that. Or
It was, that was actually, it wasn't, I didn't create it, but a person on our team did, who actually, she's gone on to become a huge mover and shaker in the sci-fi TV industry, Jane Espenson, whose name you probably know. She was on the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel.
Nice.
wow.
And so she's done all that and a whole ton more stuff.
Wow,
But
that's a
she was
really
the one who came up-
talented person.
He came up with Zima. It was
Wow. That's
Russian
awesome.
word for winter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
just
didn't you? And
wow.
then Pentium, that was one too, right?
I was involved in coming up with that and the Xeon chip as well. I
Oh,
did that
wow.
one for Intel.
Nice.
The Clash of Clans tablet game that was very popular for a while. I named that for a
Wow.
company in Helsinki called Supercell. And the
that's cool.
Sony's Crackle, if you know their
Crackle,
Oh yeah, yeah,
sure,
Crackle, yeah.
I did
That is, you know,
one.
it's just so fascinating to me. And
That's a fascinating line of work because I'm guessing you go through so many iterations,
right. Yeah.
and so much like marketing research. It is interesting how, especially today, I mean, with technology and the media and internet, a single word has to grab you, you know,
Right.
and just to get that brand and the IP and just all that is just, it's really fascinating.
You
It's
must
only
have
gotten
this-
more complex. More complex.
Yeah.
You must have this database from doing this for so long,
Right.
almost instinctive way of like, okay, we're going down the wrong road with this. This is more the attitude that we're looking for with this particular
Right, yeah,
product.
yeah.
And just,
Don't call it Monster Party Podcast.
I think, I mean, the funniest joke on me is, my own podcast is called Succotash. And
Right.
And people go, how do I spell that? And I go, oh, great. I've come up with a name that nobody can
Yeah,
fucking
right.
spell.
Right. But also because of the changing times and people's attitudes and what they like, and generations of people don't know
Sure,
what something
right.
is. So
References.
that's what's interesting too to me, So,
Or, a company that fails. And,
Right.
did you name it or did you save it or, what happened?
Yeah.
There's great naming stories, things like
Yeah.
there was a Reebok running shoe that came out for women called, and this was like in the late 90s, called the Incubus. And an incubus, of
What?
course, is a male demon that rapes women in their sleep.
There was a shoe
Good.
called that?
And it
For
lasted on the market for a week. And then
my
somebody
God.
told,
But
somebody
who
told-
would not know? Like,
I don't know, but somebody told Reebok, you know what? You might want to yank that.
wow, that's crazy.
wow.
Yeah.
This
So-
might be apocryphal, but I heard that Nova, the Chevy Nova, when you go to any sort of
Mexico and
Spanish
South
speaking country, that it means no go.
That is, the story's apocryphal. It is true if you go to Mexico and say Nova, it means don't go. But if
Right.
you talk about an exploding star in Spanish,
Right.
it's the same word Nova.
Right.
So,
I see. Okay.
yeah. Other things were like John Deere, when they went to, I think it was Argentina or someplace in South America, their logo is the leaping deer.
Mm-hmm.
But that symbology in that culture was relating to homosexuality. So they
really
had to not have it on the John Deere products in South America.
Wow, so weird.
And then the other funny thing is transliteration, which is when you take an American word into a foreign culture and they go, well, we don't understand this word. And so you have to come up with something that sounds like it in words they speak.
Okay.
And so Coca-Cola, when they took it to China, didn't make any sense. So they made some alterations and everybody could pronounce Coca-Cola over there, but the words meant bite the wax tadpole.
Wow. Bite the wax tadpole.
On a hot summer day.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So
wow.
This is great cocktail party conversation.
My
wife loves trying this out when we go to
Thank
parties.
Thank you so much.
My
buddy,
pleasure,
for being
guys.
with
Always
Yeah,
us.
this is great,
to be
Mark.
with you
Enjoy.
guys.
Yeah, we missed you. This is good.
Yes, indeed.
My pleasure, guys. Great
Well, what
to
do you
see
guys say we raise our glass and
Yes,
give a
please.
toast to Superhero Obscura and to Mark Hershon.
Oh,
Mark
thank you.
Hershon! Buddy! Drink away!
But don't bite the wax tadpole.
Time for a listener shout out.
Shout out. Shout out.
Super shout out.
Remember that shout out?
This goes out once again to listener Jay Gunn in the UK.
All right.
Jay Gunn!
Jay is a very, very talented comics creator. And most recently, he was surprised in listening to our gift guide episode of learning of the Miles Bennell, Donald Sutherland Body Snatchers figure.
Oh, yes.
And he informed us that a friend of his surprised him as a Christmas gift and ordered one for him.
Nice.
So
See,
it-
that's
it-
the way.
It cheered him up big time. And Jay also turned us on to a British series that's on YouTube called Toy Shop on Tour, which is about a couple of toy collectors going to toy shops in England, going all around England, visiting different toy shops. And this is a wonderful YouTube series.
James, I got to just tell you, Gina and I have watched the entire series. It's so great. It's just these two guys. Larry, you got to watch this show.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to watch it because they just go into toy stores and they know about every type of toy, whether like it's weird, cute little girls' toys, then it's like Transformers and Migos. Like
And they know it all.
But they just are very likable guys, and it's just addictive. And it's the way we find out about it is because I think he first told us about they did a special episode on Jonathan Ross's collection.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is
Wow,
insane.
Yeah.
His
it's an
collection
amazing
is,
collection.
I bet.
I can't even.
He loves
describe
Japanese stuff. I know
He
that.
loves
but
Japanese.
but
wow.
everything. He has stuff I've never heard of before. Like it's crazy.
Wow.
But the show is very breezy and very enjoyable. Yeah, it's I think they're going to do another season. They did one in the UK, then they did a second season around like Scotland and the Netherlands, and that's also great. And then I believe they're going to be doing a third season in America.
Cool. Yeah.
Ooh.
So definitely
Sounds great.
just look up Toy
Yeah.
Shop on Tour and watch it. It is great.
It is. And it's
Yeah.
also useful because if you're visiting one of these places, you can actually
Yes.
go to some of these shops, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as for the Invasion of the Body Snatchers figure, the secret is out now. So you better get one
Yes,
fast before it goes
Yeah.
up to $1,000.
Definitely
Oh.
one of the greatest distinctive dummies figures put out.
Maybe
the
one of
idea
the greatest figures of all time.
ever. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's funny because it's one that like I'm always sending like Martin Cage, suggestions for figures, but that's
Sure.
one that never even occurred to me. Like, and it's just
In
brilliant.
that pose.
Yeah, it's just brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jay, thank you for that.
Yes, Jay.
Appreciate your listening. And yes, we certainly appreciate that tip. So we're enjoying that.
And I would also like to give a shout out for my friend Chip Chinnery, comic extraordinaire, great actor. He's got a book called Charging Mount Stand-Up, My First Year on the Road. You can get it in hardcover and softcover on Amazon, but now you can get it on Kindle, the audio book. And you can get it if you get a free trial with Audible, you get it for free. So he's reading the book, and he just puts you there, right in the audience
Wow.
or on stage. You are there with him. So get this book. It's very popular right now. It's doing very well. So pick it up.
And listeners, Monster Party merch is still available on our eBay store, and we've got a lot of merch available, which is that these are wonderful times,
Yes.
Because we have got the t-shirt, the Kaiju t-shirt designed by Derek Robertson that we made up for our last Monster Palooza.
That's right.
That's beautiful. We've also got some sizes available in the classic Monster Party logo glow-in-the-dark t-shirt.
Yep.
We've got the Monster Party cap, which I don't need to go into how many stitches there are. There's a lot of stitches, and it's a beautiful cap. It's a thing of beauty. It's breathable.
Some of the stitches are forgettable, but that's okay.
And the Monster Party shot glass, which is gorgeous. It's got a little green glow at the bottom, and you can toast along with us and our guests at the end of each episode.
That's
And
right.
you can also put your arm hair in it.
That's right.
Ooh. And the Monster Party PPE cloth mask. What
that one?
What obscure superhero's costume would be complete without that? So
If you want to be forgettable,
I am afraid to get a virus, man.
Hey, you could be, if you wear the cap, the t-shirt, and the mask, you could be Monster Party Man.
that's right.
Hey, yeah.
Hey,
We have to-
That's a
that means we
superhero.
have to make capes now.
That's right. It's true.
Oh,
Monster
Yeah.
Party Lass.
Sure.
Yeah.
Boots.
But- Ooh, aprons. But if you are
no, we're
If
not
you
doing
are-
No,
aprons.
for once I agree with Larry. No. No, James.
Okay, no aprons, no aprons. But hey, if you buy from our eBay store and you happen to be a Patreon member, we will throw in free surprise goodies courtesy of Jason Lindsay of Biff Bang Pow Toys, friend of the show and recent guest,
That's right.
and creature creator extraordinaire Ted Haynes.
That's right.
Two great talents that you'll never forget.
Indeed. So I keep hearing about this Patreon. I feel like I hear about it every couple of weeks, and yet every couple of weeks I fucking forget what it is.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what is this Patreon, Matt? What
Yeah,
is
you have
that
to be
all
like a
about?
superhero to understand all this stuff.
I know, right? Well, I mean, think about it like this. You know how Captain Marvel or Shazam says the word Shazam and becomes a superhero?
Right?
Yeah.
Patreon is almost like that, except nothing like it. Now, here's what happens. Patreon is this platform that if you sign up for it, you will have access to bonus material from Monster Party. And we're talking about bonus audio shows, our video shows like Larry's Toy Time and Monster Party Masterpieces. And
right.
you can see our, oh my God, it was what? It's like 17 chapters of our video log of Japan, which is just
Right.
epic and so much fun. It's like being there. And then you get these special collections of vintage horror and sci-fi stories from my stepfather-in-law, John Bordeaux, who edits these things and puts them together. And, you know, we're always coming up with new and better ways to please you. All we want to do is please you.
That's right.
Oh, well, it sounds wonderful. But Matt, I gotta say, I've spent the last 2 hours on eBay looking up obscure comics, and I'm spending a lot of money. I don't know if I can afford this wonderful Patreon thing.
Well, you know, if there was a superhero that you wanted to become, it would be pay $5, man.
$5? $5?
Wow. That's crazy. You can't even get a broken Turbo Man action figure for that price.
Right. That's right. $5 is all it takes to transform yourself into a new and better metahuman with powers of entertaining yourself.
Wow. Well, that is
Right.
that is a super deal.
Yes. And
So how does one join?
Well, to get these superpowers, all you got to do is you go to patreon.com, you go to Monster Party, you click join, follow the instructions, and next thing you know, you are shaving your arm hair off.
Wow, that's easier than joining the Justice League.
That's hard. Yeah. They can be dicks.
Yeah.
And hey, let's remind our listeners that we are on social media. We're on Facebook at Monster Party TV. YouTube is also Monster Party TV. Twitter, Monster Party HQ. Instagram, also Monster Party HQ. And hey, we would love to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts. So please take a moment, write a review on iTunes or wherever you're listening to us, or even, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and we will read your comments on the air.
As the jester. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
And discover your own obscure superheroes.
What's that, Monkey Joe? Squirrel Girl's in trouble?
Come on, men, to the Monster Party Mobile.
Monster Party
assemble!
My life is so full, you wouldn't believe it.
I'm so impressed with this beautiful Monster Party display that you have behind you.
Already drunk to the gills.
I mean, Matt, how long do you think this took this guy?
Oh my
Weeks,
God. I would say, I'd say several. It's like an Avatar thing. I would say probably a good 7 years.
Yeah, pretty much. From the last time I started building it from the last time I was on.
Yeah.
Oh, Mark, it wasn't that long ago. Now, was it? Was it? Was he on our?
It was 7 years ago to this day.
Was he on our restricted list?
He's on every restricted list, except the one that leads to my heart.
Larry, I'm surprised to see you there. I'd heard you left and started your own podcast called just Monster Partier.
Hey, man, I've had offers. I've had people knocking on my door going, hey, and I'm like, well, no, I love these guys. I love them.
Thanks,
love
Larry.
them all.
Thanks for hanging around. You've gotten so used to the lifestyle that we've built for you.
Lavish lifestyle.
Yeah. How would you be able to buy your collection of minks? Faux minks. And speaking of minks, he's a
James,
little minx. It's James Gonis.
Good to see you. Look at that background. That's amazing.
I know we've all been raving about it.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. That's his apartment. Cool. He has painted that in his apartment.
How come you don't do that? How come
I don't do that? Because I'm at my stepfather-in-law's.
No, I know that. I was
there might
James.
be a kerfuffle.
James has this new, man cave, this large size man cave. I mean, where's the Monster Party corner or alcove with the bar?
It's a work in progress. Getting there.
Baby steps.
Yep.
Well, Mark HERSHON, I'm so happy to see your face.
It's been too long.
Yeah, it's been too. I'm happy to see you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now I'm just curious. So you got your headphones on, right? You got air. You got buds in. Okay.
I do.
Because we're getting. Sometimes when I'm here in this location, it sounds sometimes like people are winking out a little bit. But I want you guys let me know if somebody else are you. Does everybody else hear Mark very clearly? Have you heard any dropouts or anything?
I was going to say, Mark, by any chance, do you have some headphones?
He's got. Okay, try the headphones.
Stand by, I'll put them on. Hold on.
If you don't mind.
I don't. Hold on one moment.
I mean, it could help. It might not. I don't know.
It's just a little echoey.
It's a little echoey because you're.
I'll try to eliminate that.
Yeah, because you're.
Like night and day.
Yeah. Well, it's a little echoey because Mark is doing this from his kill room, and there's.
I still have the plastic down. So
you would think that would be a sound baffle, but it does nothing.
It reflects. Yeah. Is that better? Does that sound better?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and here comes Shawn Sheridan to ruin everything.
Oh man! Just as we were getting started, what the hell?
No. No. Sean is our critic, and he usually lets us know if we sound good or if we
Good.
sound
He's on top of
bad.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But so I guess he's
I can
taking
actually
a while for his audio to connect, but here he is. Yeah.
Hey, Sean.
Wearing his bathrobe.
Hey, Mark.
Like he cares about
It's
our
like
show.
like Hugh Hefner. It's like
It is. Both those lives kind of mirror each other.
you know what? I actually could put in a better microphone too. Let me do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, do it.
You sound pretty good, but yeah, okay.
No,
I like
Sean.
I like
Don't
his monster
accept
party.
anything less, but quality. And yes, I love the background.
That's
Beautiful.
crazy. I gotta try to do that. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm so low tech. It's pathetic.
Yeah, I could
I got-
put something behind me, but fuck.
I got all this gear.
Look at this.
and I
Look
thought-
at this amazing closet. Come on. Those are wood hangers.
I've got all
He's
this
doing very
gear. And
well.
I made a mistake because I thought that it said Monster Party Junior on my schedule, so I thought I was just going to be with the kids.
Well, we have a
The
spin-off.
kid
We have a spin-off kids podcast that we do.
Monster
Yeah.
Party babies.
It's Lil Monster Party.
Little.
Lil, yeah. Right.
Lil.
That's
Monster
great.
type.
Well, this is
Okay.
fun, right? We're already having a good time.
Oh, the time of our lives.
Changing mics, headphones, James
Time of our
talking our
lives.
ears off. There's Larry
Of course.
yelling at us because of all the offers that he's getting from other podcasts.
Yeah,
John.
those Ghostbusters guys really want me, I tell you. But
You know what? That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. Well,
I wouldn't
it's
pass
one
it up
movie
if
in
I
a
were you.
lifetime.
I don't know how they can keep going. I don't know how they can
It's
keep
two
doing
movies.
that.
Well, after the last movie, they should probably stop.
Yeah.
It's-
It's
No, just kidding.
Come on, Sean. Well,
No,
that's
They're doing another one, aren't they?
Are
They're
they?
continuing. I think they are. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Is this one with
whatever.
all animals? Like they did all
Yeah,
women?
no, it's gonna be toddlers. Yeah, the last one. Yeah, literally, the last one was like Goonies meets Ghostbusters. Yeah, that's
No,
what we.
it's-
Yeah, a
That's what
movie
we
for
want.
no one
Yeah,
It's just-
They,
I mean,
they
the-
are making Goonies too.
because we
Are
needed
they?
that. Because we
They are.
really needed that. All
No,
the
I've been-
unanswered questions. What happened to these unlikable
Well,
rascals?
I'm not surprised though, because there's that generation that just loves it. So
I know.
No, I've thought for years that Goonies 2 would be a great idea because you bring them all back, but make it like The Big Chill. They're all, it's post-traumatic stress. and
yeah,
they're all like,
yeah.
dramatic,
It sounds
self-involved,
great, James.
narcissistic adults. It could not be worse than the first one. Okay?
Well,
It'll be
that's
the
true.
It'll be the Big Chill meets the Goonies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But who is it that's committed suicide? That's the
Chili's.
thing we need to know.
Yeah, right.
All right, let's see.
All
here.
right. Oh, that does sound good.
Ooh, look at that.
Yeah.
How's that? Does that sound better?
You
Oh my
sound more
God.
present.
You
Well,
sound
well, that's-
wonderful. Yeah.
Now I'm actually using my podcast equipment. I don't know what I
Imagine
was
that.
thinking.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Thanks for working this out ahead of time.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it was crazy. My wife was just coming home from driving from the Bay Area.
Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody,
I do. I want to hear it. I'm interested.
God bless you, Larry. God bless you, Larry. Let's make this show just about you and me tonight. How about that?
Yeah.
Oh, you said Bay Area, and I'm hip. I know where that is.
I'm hip.
When
You
I think
said
of the word hip,
Bay Area.
Larry's face comes to mind. It's like
Well, I live in Grass Valley now, so I'm
Oh.
3 hours away from the Bay Area.
So yeah.
Hey,
so
how about
we're all-
this weather? Isn't this weather just crazy?
Is this how this show is going to go?
Larry really knows. Larry really knows how to kick it into high gear.
Yeah. No wonder all the offers are coming in. Hey, Larry, do that weather thing you do.
Hey, I'm really excited about today's topic, though. I
Me
really
too.
am.
I got
No,
a
it's
I got a
fun.
long list, and
I
it
got-
is one of those
I
things.
got tons.
Wait a
Sean
minute.
was saying,
Whoa.
he said, like, that this is something we could revisit, and I agree. Like, I
could be
I almost-
definitely a recurring series. Yeah,
Now,
Like,
now he's hesitant. Now I put him on the
No.
spot, and he's like,
Oh,
could be. I don't know. maybe."
Well,
it's like horror and sci-fi obscura. We've
Right.
done
Right.
several of those.
right.
Yeah,
Superheroes
We could
easily.
Well, here,
totally
I-
do another.
There's been
was-
books. There's whole books published about
Yeah,
Well,
you're
when
right.
Matt told me,
superheroes. and-
when
yeah.
Matt told me, this is within reach of all times of my desk, which is I don't know if you can see that, but it's
we can't, but please read it out.
Yeah, it's the League of Regrettable Superheroes.
Oh, nice.
And it goes back about 80 years, and there's a bunch of great stuff in there. And then there's a companion book that came out called The Legion of Regrettable Supervillains.
Oh, wow.
Well, I have
if you guys are going to revisit the topic, I think that's a way to do it. Is
This
go
is,
after the villains.
Yeah.
This is my book.
Oh, there you go.
Reference. Jeff
There
wrote. He
you
did
go.
one on super villains too.
Well,
Nice.
That's nice.
And this is
That's nice.
great.
I have this thing
Tons.
called the internet.
What?
What's that?
Say more.
Go ahead, Larry. What do you got?
Look, I just wanted to say, look, I hope we're not going to do this thing where it's like you throw out a name, like, oh, that's neat, move on. I mean, guys, I think, you know, I don't want the show to go on for like, I know it can easily go on for 5 hours, but, you know, some of us are working folks. And
No, we can take our time. Like I agree. I think we
but
should
it's like
do it.
you say who the person is, if you know who created it or the year
Yeah,
or something
exactly.
and what it's
Yeah.
about, and we can all
Sure.
talk about it. I mean, I was thinking, I mean, if each one of us did 6 or 7, I mean, that's like
Yeah.
over 35, and that's a night. That's over like a nice
Yeah.
hour and a half.
Yeah,
but
no, I don't
look,
want to go
call
on
me
for-
crazy. Call me crazy.
They
I'm
often
just-
do.
I'd like to talk about these characters.
Yeah. In other words, you don't want to like rush through them and just say, "What about
No.
this? This is a crazy name. This is a crazy name." No. Yeah, I agree.
No.
This is
No, we're
gonna-
going to talk about them. This is.
Hey, Matt.
Have you ever
Matt.
done this podcast before?
Matt, I got a notice that host has disabled participant screen sharing. I don't
Me?
know.
I might be having some because this is what happened last time. And I'm in.
that might be me too, because I just was on another Zoom and I had to allow some people to access my shared
because
screen.
I've done screenshots of some of the ones I want to talk about, so I was going to like show them to you guys.
Wow,
Can
cool.
you hear me though?
Oh,
That's
yes.
the main thing.
Well,
Yes.
Mark,
And I can see you, so that's all that matters.
Mark, can you test? So, in other words, you're going to share your screen at some point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, can you just do that as a test to make sure we
I'm
all can
trying
see
it
that?
now, and it says host disabled participant screen saving.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
I don't.
well,
I
that must be Matt then. If it's host,
I don't know
right?
what I'm supposed to do. Can't we just lift up a book for Christ's sake?
Yeah, that's fine.
God damn it.
Yeah, absolutely, we can.
Or yeah, hold it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hold it up to the
Yeah.
screen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we can do that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have my quadraphonic button.
Oh,
No,
Ready.
there is. I think there's a thing to. In other words, if you want to share a screen or allow somebody to share a screen on your end, I
Yeah,
think
don't
there's
worry about
something
it.
you have to click. But that's
let's
fine.
not worry about it.
Yeah.
You
I may have to turn my
mother
background off though, because when the
fuckers.
background is on, then you can't.
Right.
see
Right.
American. See, I'm looking at this, and it's I'm not
Don't
prepared.
worry. Let's not worry about it. This is not a visual medium. Let's not.
Yeah,
worry.
No,
that's true.
it's
That's
not.
true.
Yes, let's have even more screens to look at. There are 4 fucking hosts.
Gee, Grandpa.
And listen, I haven't had my cocoa. All right.
All right.
We could start this and get this
Yeah, go
going.
ahead.
Anybody feel like
I agree.
Anybody feeling it?
No, so no,
Let's do it.
but I think we should. But Mark, you know how the game is played here.
Oh God,
You
yes.
listen
Oh,
to the
no.
show. We just, Matt's gonna do his little creepy voice. We introduce the show. We introduce ourselves.
Larry,
say what
I've
the
done.
topic
Larry,
is.
I've done the show 3 times already. 4
I
times
think you
already.
get- I
I
think
know,
you
but
get
it's been a while. Well, it's been a
But
while, Sean.
Larry has that thing where he cycles, and you have to let him finish.
All right, I'll jump back on the merry-go-round in a minute.
Yes, and then he has to go count the tiles in the bathroom, and then he comes back. And he's-
Merry-go-round of Monster Party. Merry-go-round. Yes.
Monster Party merry-go-round.
Oh,
okay. I just
numerous
want
shows
to
we
be
have.
clear. I just want to be clear. I mean,
okay.
Heck, I didn't want him to start gabbing right when you're right in the middle of it. Hey,
Thanks,
we're
Larry.
Monster Party. I'm just
Would
saying.
never do it.
I
Never
appreciate
do it.
that. Yes.
Thank you.
And just I want you to know, Mark, that so we edit this show
What?
normally, but for this one, no matter what you say, it's going in.
It's live
Ooh.
streaming
So
right now.
watch-
It's live
Watch
streaming. on
what you
TikTok.
say. Nothing
Okay.
cut out,
Okay,
Raw.
motherfuckers, let's do it.
Wow.
and that's a lie. Okay, here we go. Ready?
Yes.
Let's
Ready.
do it. Okay,
Wait. Let me turn off my phone.
sure, no problem. I should do that too. Mine's in the other
I'm putting mine on podcast mode, which is
Wow. So that's so meta.
it is.
I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Sean Sheridan.
I am Larry Stroth.
And I'm James. And I'm James Gunn.
Wow, that really does fit the theme of this show.
James Gonis is the Klimt man.
No, I wasn't sure if Larry was finished.
Sorry, James.
No, it's all good.
James, give me your intro again, because you sounded like you were like delivering that from under the floorboards.
I'm James Gonis.